All right. Should be back now. You should be able to hear me. For some reason, it was resetting it, so it wasn't allowing it to connect. Let me just check that that's coming through. Bismillah. So, yes, no sound still. Yes, it's coming through. Allah. Wow. Inna alhamdulillah wa kafah. والصلاة والسلام على رسوله المصطفى وعلى عباده الذين ارتضى ومن بهداهم اهتدى وبآثار أهل المدينة اقتفى وبعد فالسلام الله على القوم أهلا وسهلا ومرحبا people of right مرحبا بكم يا جماعة مرحبا all right right, sound is clear. I like that. I like that. So shukran. Yeah, ab ka kare. Somebody said the hair's looking up. The hair's now out of my control. I need to go to the barbers. So, what is going on? Ya salam. Let me check who have we got with us. In fact, whilst you guys are clicking like and share and going through the usual, which you do, let me just bring up today's what we'll be taking a look at. What I actually just wanted to do today was go through a bit of a surah, and then I wanted to share some thoughts on Shaykh Hamza Yusuf's discussion with Jordan Peterson, and then just let some of you jump on live with me, share your precious thoughts. All right, so let me just bring this up before. Where are we at? So I've gotta find this file for some reason. Where is it at? Nope. No, I believe that's it. Okay, so all right, that's the one. Let your light shine. Kya baat hai. So, an Islam in practice. So I want to focus on some of these things, but let's see who's with us today, people. Who is with us? First and foremost, you're doing it. Much love for the super sticker. May Allah bless you. We've got Muhammad Anik from Pakistan. Vah, marhaban. Shamroz Mufti looking kya baat hai. In the words of Mir, ke hale bad na guftani hai mera, aapne pucha to meharbani ki. Kya baat. So let me just take a quick sip. So, who have we got? Claire. Ahlan wa sahlan. Shukran. Right. All right. Nora Salam from Daytona doing it. Shukran. And Abdul Basit. All right. I like it, people. I like it. Love the shukran. Much love. Love you with all my heart and soul, Mal. खुश कर देते हैं आप, you know. May Allah keep you smiling. Ameen. Honestly, kya baat hai yaar. You know what it is? It's the love within you which shines. And believe me, a person, you know, the positivity you carry within you, that is the light that you see in the world. Believe me, that is what you see. Allah shows it, reflects it back at you from the world. If you know, the thing we would learn as kids, that smile and the whole world smiles back at you. It is, in essence, just that. And if you're pessimistic, you tend to only see sadness, and not just sadness, but negativity. It's not about being sad. It's about being negative. And you see that. And if you're positive, this is what beams back at you. So, yeah. Hamza Yusuf discussion was interesting. Yeah, I definitely want to speak about that. It was so, it was much awaited. So, yep. Rufi Johnston, shukran, much love for the super chat. May Allah keep you blessed and smiling. Seriously, all the time. I dearly appreciate your love and support. May Allah bless you all. Ameen. Right, are you going to cover the Jordan Peterson? Yep, I am going to cover that. I'm going to share my thoughts on it. I like the new hist. Shukran. It's God, I've not had a chance actually to get it trimmed. I'd gone away on a week's retreat. I was gone focusing on the Spanish language. People, you have to be consumed by passions in life, and you have to just do, and there may be a spectrum of passions and interests. It doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that all interests or all passions are of the same energy, but still you have to set about them, do things, and don't always listen. In fact, if possible, often don't share most of what you do online. Just do your things. Share them occasionally. I mean, there's no, la haraj. It's okay, it's fun. I get it, but don't let that be your world. Live your actual life. There's a beautiful poem by Gibran Khalil Gibran, where he says that, he says, like, safir wa la tukhbir bihi ahadan, like, travel and don't tell anybody, live and don't speak to anyone, love and don't share it with the world. And he goes through all the things, and then he says, he ends it by saying, "An-nas yufsidun al-ashya al-jamila," that people have a way of ruining beautiful things. That, yeah, just, don't make it about the world. That do things. If you have an opportunity, just do it. Don't think so much about it. Just seize it. Let's say there's an and it doesn't have to be something, magnanimous or something extravagant or something. It could just be something. Let's say there's a little opportunity to just go visit someone that you haven't seen in a while, or just do it. Or you get a chance to partake in something which is of a quirky interest to you. Maybe other people ridicule it. What the hell are you? You're wasting your. But it interests you. Just do it. And yeah, there's just so much. I feel that in this day and age, right now, we spend so much trying to show the world what we're doing. We're trying to show people that we're happy, trying to show. And in doing all of this, life is what just dissipates. So, yeah, just. Yeah. So there was. Khair. There was a poem I wanted to share with you guys. If I've got it here somewhere. I thought, yaar, koi Urdu kuch hona chahiye. There should be something that I'm not quite sure whose poem this is. I came across it. It seems very contemporary. I mean, it is very contemporary, and I don't think it's a I somebody incredibly well known, but I really it caught my attention, and I thought I have to share it with you guys. So, मेरे बेरब्त ख्यालात में क्या रखा है? That बेरब्त khayalat, that these my disconnected thoughts. What is there in that? What is there like? इसमें क्या रखा है? What's there in that one could find of value? मैं तो पागल हूं, मेरी बात में क्या रखा है? I'm just somebody insane. What is there in anything I have to say? बांध रखा है तेरी याद ने माजी से मुझे, वरना गुजरे हुए लम्हात में क्या रखा है? That your memories are what have tied me to the past. Otherwise, what is there that one may find in moments that have lapsed? मेरी तकमील तेरी जात से ही मुमकिन है, तू अलग हो तो मेरी जात में क्या रखा है? That my completion, the completion of my essence, or my completion is only possible by your essence. If you are separated, then what is there of my essence that's worth anything? ये शब और रोज तेरे दम से ही ताबिंदा है. Tabinda is to be kind of shining. वरना इन गर्दिश हालात में क्या रखा है? That day and night, they glisten, they shine with your light, Allah. Otherwise, what is there in this cosmos of existence, Allah? उमर भर साथ निभाओ तो कोई बात बने, चंद लम्हों की मुलाकात में क्या रखा है? It's as if it's a journey that will span a lifetime, then okay, let's consider it. Otherwise, what is there in just a few moments of any worth? That what he's trying to say is, if it's just a meeting of a few moments that are just fleeting, then what does that mean? मेरे बेरब्त ख्यालात में क्या रखा है? मैं तो पागल हूं, मेरी बात में क्या रखा है? बांध रखा है तेरी याद ने माजी से मुझे, वरना गुजरे हुए लम्हात में क्या रखा है? मेरी तकमील तेरी जात से ही मुमकिन है, तू अलग हो तो मेरी जात में क्या रखा है? ये शबो रोज तेरे दम से ही ताबिंदा है, वरना इन गर्दिश हालात में क्या रखा है? उम्र भर साथ निभाओ तो कोई बात बने, चंद लम्हों की मुलाकात में क्या रखा है. क्या बात है यार, क्या बात. I came across that. I thought, you know what? Let me share it. So, people, what is going on? What is going on? Hina Butt is the writer, right? Okay, shukran for sharing that. Yep, that rings a bell now. Shukran, dil todne wale, those who shatter hearts. Kya baat hai yaar. That reminds me of a poem. What is the, in the words, Freud, he said that everywhere I go, I find a poet has been there before. That's that's quite an accomplishment, but it's so true. But yeah, so Dil Torne, what was his name? What was his name? Dil Torne Wale, those who shatter hearts. Kya baat hai, kya baat. That reminded me of a poem. Yes. That उठा के फूल की पत्ती नजाकत से मसल डाली, इशारों में समझा दिया हम दिल का ये हाल करते हैं. Wow, people, wow. That उठाकर फूल की पत्ती नजाकत से मसल डाली. That she lifted a rose petal and with great delicacy shattered it, just decimated it, but with delicacy. And thus she indicated to us that this is what we do with the hearts. These poets, I tell you, they have a vivid imagination. Kya baat hai, kya baat hai. So, people, what is going on? What is going on? So, bro, why do you come when I'm about to go to sleep? Well, see, this is the connexion that we have. You see, just as you're about to switch off, I'm here to remind you that hang on a little while. Mufti, I've been attacked by Mujassims and Ahmadis. Help. Ya salam. I tell you, I've really been thinking that I want to share some thoughts with you, just stemming from this as well, that it really is a shame how many Muslims, not all, but many, live under this Muslim Panopticon. Okay, now, those of you that recall the Panopticon, it was basically Jeremy Bentham, the English philosopher. He came up with a design he was trying to get it commissioned to build a prison. And the prison was to be designed so as to save state expenses with the guards. So it was to be like a rotunda, like a cylinder building. And in the middle, there would be, I don't know, like whether it was a staircase or something rising up, but around the whole cylinder are the cells on each floor. But the cells of the prisoners are made with bars, but each prisoner is being watched by many prisoners by the nature of the design. And what this would do is it would because you were under the glance of others, you were you were in a heightened state of awareness in the sense that somebody's always watching me. Thereby you were less likely to plot to escape, you were less likely to be up to something, and it also saved the prison in having to hire many guards, because it only needed a few guards, and then the prisoners ended up just watching each other. This was the plan. It wasn't actually commissioned in the end, but he's designed the Panopticon because you are constantly under the watch. Everybody's under the watch. Unfortunately, there is a kind of Muslim Panopticon under which many Muslims live. And I think in some ways we are a unique, and this is unfortunate, not in a good sense, but we are probably one of the only communities worldwide that do that. And now I think other people are probably getting a taste of this from things like cancel culture. So you say something and 5 years later it comes back and it bites you in the behind because somebody found a tweet or somebody found something you said 10 years ago. And so you have to be very vigilant about what you say or do online. There's a culture emerging for the masses, but Muslims seem to have been under this shadow, self-afflicted, for a considerable while now. And it is so unhealthy. Constantly, I'm telling him off, he's telling him off, that person's telling me off. Do you see the Panopticon effect that is taking place? See, this is not what Islam is about. And even, this somebody had written that I'm struggling with these people or this group, and really, in essence, look, everybody, look, this is one faith. This is what it is meant to be, isn't it? One faith, Islam. Sure, people will have different takes on it. Somebody is going to be, let's say, somebody's Salafi, somebody might be Sufi, somebody might be Deobandi, somebody might be Tablighi, somebody might be whatever. Somebody might be Shia, somebody might be, and amongst Ismaili, somebody might be. But ultimately, people are on their path, they're on their journey. And, it's a shame that we spend most of our faith energy just at each other's throats. It's a shame because, and it's embarrassing as well, because he's wrong, she's wrong, they're wrong, you're wrong. Kaya. This is, اعتصموا بحبل الله جميعا. That it's a lifeline from God. Walk along it. Tika, you disagree with people. Look, people in one household, think of it like this. Look, those of you that have siblings, most people, some people don't, but in a single household, let's say you've got a few siblings and your parents now, you take a family unit. The people in under this one roof cannot cannot agree on several things, on taste, on opinions, on maybe politics, on sports, on interests, on hobbies, on likes, on dislikes, they can't agree. But that's okay, they're not meant to agree. What, فَمَا بَالُكَ بِالْأُمَّةِ? What do you think about the ummah by extension? Of course, it's never good. People are different. But yeah. Let's move to watching from Amsterdam. All right. Shukran. You know, let's bring up something I want to share today, a surah. Let me just bring up the screen. Allah, let your light shine, people. You know, I saw these quotes, and the one on the right is attributed to Maulana Rumi. And on the left, it's just a quote that don't be afraid to shine. The world needs your light. And this, in light of that quote about light, there's a clip by Jordan Peterson, since we're going to be speaking a bit about him in a moment, where he mentions that don't underestimate the hole or the void that your absence will leave on people. That every single one of us is unique. You know, just think about that for a moment. That, you know, every one of us, we are certain memories and certain meanings in the minds of people. People remember you saying something to them that probably you don't even remember. They don't even know why they remember that. You know, you have strange memories of people sometimes. And it's not like you try to remember it, you just remember something about them. And oh, that's strange. You know, you just have this memory of someone doing something or saying something, or and it's very much alive in the mind and the hearts of people. And that's us. That's you. That's every one of us. So never underestimate the void, the emptiness one of us would leave. Our absence would leave. And in light of that, just to fit perfectly there, the verse that huwajtabakum. Just remember that. And I've got a brief clip on that as well. That huwa ijtabakum. Huwajtabakum. He chose you. Allah chose you. Remember that. This quote on the right-hand side, I really, I thought it really set a backdrop to what I wanted to speak a bit about. So, in generosity and helping others, be like the river. In compassion and grace, be like the sun. In concealing others' faults, be like the night. In anger and fury, be like the dead. What an amazing metaphor. In anger and fury, be like the dead. Kya baat hai? In modesty and humility, be like the soil. In tolerance, be like the ocean. Allah. And you'll see in a moment, I wanted us to take a look at a hadith that sums up Islam in practice. And you'll see what I mean, and we'll come back to this. So, salam from Iran. Allahu Akbar. Sina, Allahu Akbar. Ahlan wa sahlan. A poem, Why Not, by the legend Sagar Siddiqui. Ulji thi aqal o hosh mein Sagar rahe hayat. Mein leke tera naam fana se guzar gaya. Kya baat. We've covered this poem before anyway, so it was still there, so why not? Let's take a look at the first 8 verses from Suratul Infitar. And Infitar in Fatara means to kind of split, or to just maybe like shatter. Is in Fatarat. Okay, so أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إذا السماء انفطرت, that when the heaven is cleft asunder, وإذا الكواكب انتثرت, and when the constellations, they disappear, they spread out of sight. وإذا البحار فجرت, and there's different ways of seeing this, but when the oceans, they come gushing forth, وإذا القبور بعثرت, and when the dead are overturned, or the graves are overturned, علمت نفس ما قدمت وأخرت. Now, at that stage, a soul will know what it has done. It will know the goodness that it sent forward, that it invested in. It will know where it fell short in all the opportunities it missed, in all the mistakes that it perpetrated. But another way of, and this is the beautiful thing about looking at the Quran, is every time you look at it afresh, it gives you certain nuances. So one way, and that's these verses are reading, that إذا السماء انفطرت وإذا الكواكب انتثرت وإذا البحار فجرت وإذا القبور بعثرت. When all this happens, and then the insan, when on the day of judgment, knows this is what they have done. That's clear, of course, without a doubt. But one nuance is also to say that when the heavens are, cleft asunder and the constellations shoot out of sight and they disappear, and when the oceans gush forward and the land and the corpses are turned upside down, is that what it would take to know where you have gone right and where you have gone wrong? Is that what it would take? That would you not know already? Because you would. علمت نفس ما قدمت وأخرت. You see, a nuance of looking at it is, does it actually take all of that? Does it take the heavens to be cleft asunder and constellations and stars to explode and disappear? Is this because that too, the universe at some point will come to an end? But does it take that? Do you not already know? ما قدمت وأخرت. The goodness and the harm that you've caused, do you not know truly? And I think in that nuance, because we do know. I mean, there'll be little things, obviously, and other things but certain things that weigh down on us, we do know. It doesn't take the heavens and everything to be destroyed. In fact, in many ways, you see, all of those things put together, the heaven, and here heaven doesn't mean Jannat, it's the Sama. This is the English word about meaning the cosmos. And the constellations and the stars and the planets and the oceans and the land, and in many ways, all of those things, that whole world to be destroyed, is somewhat dwarfed when considering the human soul being destroyed. Because it is by that consciousness, it is by insan that these things are witnessed or appreciated. That all of that world being led to destruction, and on the other hand, the soul being destroyed or not, or the opposite. That's one way of looking at this whole nuance of إذا السماء انفطرت وإذا الكواكب انتثرت وإذا البحار فجرت وإذا القبور بعثرت. And بعثرت is an interesting verb, and Zamakhshari said that it's actually from ba'ath, just to resurrect with an added ra. But وإذا القبور بعثرت علمت نفس ما قدمت وأخرت. But look at all of this. Now you put it aside. Now check this out. You're going to love this. يا أيها الإنسان ما غرك بربك الكريم. Allah. After all of that, you see, like you're looking at this whole destruction, you're coming to, is this what it takes for insan to realize where they've gone wrong or where they've gone right? Is that what it takes? And then in that moment of profound self introspection, of evaluating yourself, Allah says, Ya ayyuhal insanu ma gharraka bi rabbikal kareem. You know, this verse, take this verse, you could take this and put this as a principle or a mantra for our lives. For every, look, put every, you know, a moment ago we were speaking about this kind of religiosity. Put that all on one side. Ya ayyuhal insanu ma gharraka. What has deceived you? Bi rabbikal kareem. That your Lord, that Rabbik al-Kareem, what deceived you about your God who has been so generous to you? Alladhi khalaqak, created you, fasawak, gave you formation, formed you, fa'adalak. And there's many ways adala can be to straighten out, to structure you, but it can also be it's from the term of fairness. You see, because a person may say, well, I haven't got, you know, this person's got more than me, that person's got more than me. Where's the fairness? But then what about all the hundreds of thousands that you have been favored above? And everybody is on that kind of continuum. Everybody has something to be so grateful about. فَعَدَلَكَ فِي أَيِّ سُورَةٍ مَا شَاءَ رَكَّبَكَ. And there's two ways of looking at this. فِي أَيِّ سُورَةٍ, and in what form, in what shape, this kind of almost like a body that he has set you up in. But the other way of looking at it is fi ayyi surah, that in amazement, that what a surah, that look, and this is by surah here, it doesn't mean like surah in Arabic nowadays means like a photograph, but that's modern Arabic. But surah here meaning your form, not just you, me, but insan as a whole. How we can do things, how our limbs, our kind of movement, our agility, our intellect, the greatest thing that we have, our compassion, our empathy, our all of this is part of our what we have as a surah to insan. Masha arakabak. And this whole thing being tied in, Ya ayyuhal insan, ma gharraka bi rabbikal kareem. You know, how did you, what deceived you or fooled you and led you away from your God that was so generous? That what is it? You know, this is like, it's one of those questions that, Ma gharrak bi rabbikal kareem. Never think of God as, you know, sometimes people have this image of God as this dictator, God as this somebody, this accountant, God as this almost like a this kind of he's like he's a king who can, if he's angry with you, then he will rip you to pieces, but if he's happy with you, then okay, you'll get blessed. People have this image. This right here, this verse is how you understand Allah. Ya ayyuhal insan, ma gharrak. What is fooling you and deceiving you? Bi rabbikal kareem. Rabb, the one who nurtured. See, Rabb is to do with nurture. It could have been Ilah, which is God, but Rabb is the one who nurtures you. Rabbikal kareem. That is the nisbah of insan to God. On it, these verses, just these 8 verses, are so powerful that they begin by starting out there in the cosmos, starting off with the whole cosmos. What if it was to collapse? What if these lights that we see always so with so much stability? See, the constellations that we are looking at, humans have been looking at them forever. Same constellation, the stability. What if they were to disappear? What if these oceans, and one way of looking at this verse, fujirat, is to be consumed, to kind of just be gone. What if the dead that are so far and under, meaning the out of sight, all of a sudden became inside? So look where the verses are bringing us from above all, and then it's bringing us to a sense of responsibility. علمت نفس ما قدمت وأخرت. But the moment insan might almost stop in thinking, might start feeling a bit, a bit of gloom, the verse steps in. Ya ayyuhal insan, ma gharraka bi rabbikal kareem. What is beguiling you? Allah, Rabbukal Kareem. And then, has he not created you? Has he not given you form? Has he not given you strength? Has he not given you cognition? Has he not created you in an unfathomable manner where you are capable of ideas and computation and planning and concepts? And if he's done all of this, then how can you give up on him? Allah, how can you give up on God? Just think about that. These 8 verses, I thought, I was, I think it was a few weeks ago, I was reading it and I thought, you know what, inshallah, when I remember, I'll go through them with you guys. But yeah, somebody said God is begging insan to wake up. I mean, I would say it's not. See, it's not about. To me, I don't see it as a warning and a caution. That I'm sure that's one way people could read it. I see it more as your. It isn't a realization, but almost of, where a person, they can almost be disappointed with themselves for not having realized earlier. I see it more like that. And it's all of us. Look, we're all on this journey. This is not, somebody's, trying. This is all of us. We're all doing it all the time. But this is the point that Allah is constantly saying, "Ma gharraka bi rabbikal ka." It's okay. Allah is still always there for us. I wanted to share that with us. May Allah bless us all. Ameen. Right. What I'll do is I'll bring up, I'll take a look at some of the comments. Oh, look at that. That didn't go over well. Let me take that off. Yep, that's fine. So, yeah, somebody said, well, this might be the. Right, let me take a look at some of the comments. Joseph Kane, this is something. Shukran, may Allah bless you. Ameen, ameen. And we'll come to that hadith in a moment. Let me take a look at some of your comments. And right, we'll also go over some thoughts on the Shaykh Hamza Yusuf and Jordan Peterson discussion. Right, people. Scorpio, you're doing it. Yobus, the Yobus Surah Infitar. Oh, shukran, yes. Surah 82, shukran. Right, so. All right, salams all, but shukran. May Allah bless you. Right, so people, I did watch Shaykh Hamza Yusuf with Jordan Peterson, much awaited, people. Right, so I got the impression that this podcast was done back then when it was announced. This is the impression I got, and it was only released now. So I don't know what that's about. Why did Jordan Peterson, maybe it required certain editing, I don't know. Yeah, I'd not been feeling too well, shaking off a flu, a man flu, people. So, I don't know are we allowed to say man flu? I don't know, people. Cancel culture. Yeah, I have to say this is right. So let's focus, get back on track. Yeah, so I watched the discussion. I'm glad they changed the title, by the way, because the first title, I saw it just again today, and the title was changed to something like What We Can Learn from the Quran or something like this, which was a much more apt and suitable title. The one before, something like A Catholic's Conversion to Islam After a Near-Death Experience or something was, yeah, that was, it didn't, it was a bit naff and didn't really do it justice. but the discussion was, it was. I thoroughly enjoyed it. There were certain parts I felt that it, there were things I wish it went into more, and there were certain parts that it did cover with some depth. It was the first time I heard Sheikh Hamza Yusuf speak about his conversion, um, or the kind of landscape leading to his conversion, his near-death experience. I'd never heard of. I don't know if he has mentioned it before, but it was the first time I heard that story. Also, quite some detail about Sheikh Hamza Yusuf's kind of family background. I didn't realize his. He spoke a bit about his mother, the role of his mother, his father having converted to Islam, and just some detail about them and how they have added value to his journey. So that was definitely something very intimate, very personal. He spoke about them passing away, and both his mother and father passing away, and how he was there for it. So that was something very personal and intimate once again. So it was very, I mean, for me, because I'd not watched that before. So maybe some of you had heard of that before, but I hadn't. So that was very revelatory. And then Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, as always, is just so, his breadth of knowledge is so vast. Just the kind of net he casts out there. So that was so refreshing and captivating. He spoke of several people, their reasons on what led them to Islam. I did think that on the flip side, the discussion was dominated to a certain degree by the whole conversion aspect, which I guess then it's a kind of cost expense of the talk, because the time of the talk is naturally limited. It then disallowed the talk to spread into other topics of faith that could be, there's so many topics on faith, and it would have been so fascinating to hear how do these both thinkers tackle these things, from topics like, I mean, just so many, from atheism to the problem of evil to religion in the world today. I think at one point Jordan Peterson tried to bring in evolution and say, well, how do you reconcile that? And that was Sheikh Hamza Yusuf didn't really tackle it. He says, well, guided evolution, and then he says, well, I believe, and he gives reference to a certain particular poem, and he says you can Google it. So discussions like that could have been also very fruitful. So I think on one hand, because the whole topic, or the topic of Hamza Yusuf's conversion to Islam became such a dominating theme that it took up most of the discussion, and thereby disallowed the opportunity for other important themes and topics. So that's I guess on the flip side, I did think some of the talk felt like it was somewhat speech, as in not obviously, if I say speech, it doesn't make sense, but somewhat lecture like. So it seemed as if there were certain parts where Sheikh Hamza Yusuf was, and it was amazing and elegant, and and eloquent, and once again very enriching. But it felt like Sheikh Hamza Yusuf would go into a like he would drift into almost like a lecture, like a sermon, like segment where he would speak about the wonders of whatever the point of discussion was, and he would do that for a little while, and then Jordan Peterson would kind of chime in, say something, and then he would go off on another. And although that is unquestionably captivating, but I felt what it took away then was the interaction, because there's something about a conversation that I felt it didn't have. I mean, it was a beautiful interaction, and it was a very harmonious interaction, which is definitely amazing in its own way. But it didn't seem like, this is to me, it didn't seem like a conversation. It seemed more like just orating a particular point and just speaking, and then being asked another question, and then just responding to that. And so there was definitely a harmony, and there was an amazing interaction, but it wasn't quite like natural speak. So I felt that where's what you might see on, for example, Joe Rogan, you get a lot of that natural interaction. So you see the person. It just, I don't know. I just felt this was a point that I felt it didn't have that. Not to detract from it, it was still amazing. So, but I'm trying to just share my evaluation of it. God, my throat. Other than that, I really appreciated the way Sheikh Hamza Yusuf firmly asserted his faith. He wasn't kind of shy about it, and that was quite refreshing to see. So there's a point where there's several points, but on one occasion where Jordan Peterson is speaking about how Islam can be complicated and how it's difficult trying to grasp another culture, but Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, not in an uncouth way, but he kind of pushes back on that, and he asserts that actually no, for an intelligent person, Islam is actually very simple. And then Jordan Peterson says, well, why don't you explain it to me? And says, I'd love to. And he explains it. And I thought, well, that's, that was definitely something very admirable. Another thing is where another example coming to mind is Jordan Peterson mentions at a particular point about, he says, well, you see, in one way of looking at God is like a hierarchy of values. And ultimately you have an ineffable value, which is God. And so Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, he responds to that by saying, look, let's be clear, we don't believe in God as a value. God is not a value, he is God. And when he says that, Jordan Peterson then says, of course, no, I don't mean to reduce God to a value. This is why I stressed ineffability, which is, that you can't describe in words. So that, I thought that was very admirable, that the way Sheikh Hamza Yusuf stepped back and asserted his point in saying, well, as opposed to just letting it just flow, which he could have, and because that's him, Jordan Peterson speaking about his own perspective, but he says, look, no. And also the part where, I mean, these are certain points coming to my mind that are like striking features. There was a point in the discussion where Jordan Peterson mentions that he says, well, I don't understand how Muslims come about the topic of Christ, because he says, well, you've got Judaism, and then you've got Christianity, which then asserts the divinity of Christ, and then how do Muslims come back from that, and how do they reconcile? They say, well, Jesus is still central to Islam, but he's not divine, and so on. And Sheikh Hamza Yusuf actually answers that very well. He says, no. He says, well, look. He says, well, according to most Jews, Christ was a charlatan. So, and according to the best of them, he says, well, he was just a rabbi. But according to most of them, he was a fraud. So, and he really puts it out into perspective that, well, actually, when you're looking at it, that you've got going from that angle to this extreme peak of divination, and then you've got Muslims who have a maqam of venerating Jesus, alayhi salam. So it's not actually, it's actually very logical and very rational. So that, once again, I mean, there were so many amazing features about the discussion. I do wish in certain ways if it could grapple with other topics as well, that topic, because it seemed to, you see, to me, on the flip side, because if I had to, let's say, if I had to critique, not to criticize, but to critique certain aspects, I would feel that the topic was very dominated with a very Christian talk. So, which is fine, because I get it, because Jordan Peterson is a Christian, and many of his following, I mean, I'm sure many of his followers are Christian, although I'm sure not most of them, but still many amongst them. And so it had a lot of this Christian and Christ talk to find maybe that common ground. Maybe what they were trying to do was bridge. I mean, that is what they were trying to do. They say in the end, we were trying to build bridges. But there wasn't much talk of the challenges of, let's say, atheism or disbelief, in the face of, atheism, that both, whether it's Christianity or Islam, that believers find, whether it's going to be the discussion of free will, whether it's going to be the discussion of the problem of evil, whether it's going to be the discussion of, I don't know, other things that common militant atheists may have, problems they may have. That would have been very interesting, but I get it, that would be also very difficult. There was a point where they spoke about consciousness. That was good, that was interesting. Sheikh Hamza Yusuf did say, he spoke briefly about the neural correlates of consciousness. So to me, overall, I definitely enjoyed it. Thoroughly enjoyable, so much to learn from it. I'll probably give it something like maybe like an 8.5 out of 10. Yeah, maybe like an 8 or an 8.5 out of 10, which is definitely fantastic. It's just the discussion on the Christ like talk, or the Christ topic or the Christ theme just seemed very dominating throughout the whole thing. And I get it, that may have been that, you know, purposive, and maybe that's what Jordan Peterson wanted from the discussion. But I just feel that I as a person, you know, as a keen ardent fan of both of them, I would have just wanted so many of the topics discussed, which inshallah maybe in the future they would do. But I'm not saying this in any, I'm not trying to be you know, negative. I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm saying it in a way just my appraisal of it, what I saw of it. And in some ways I just felt that I don't know, you know, sometimes you look so looking forward to something, and when it happens it is amazing, but then maybe maybe the realism of it just doesn't, it's like like something's not, like I said, maybe it was the fact that that conversation spirit, that it didn't feel like a conversation for some reason to me. I don't know why that is, and I don't know whether that was just me and or if other people felt that. It felt a bit like an interview, but not much. So maybe that's why. Yeah, so that's just my trying to find some, you know, my appraisal of it. So yeah, but overall amazing. If you haven't watched it, you have to watch it. I'm sure it must be you know, it's definitely has to be the best so far talk that Jordan Peterson has had with any Muslim. So you have to watch it. And it is a meeting of, you know, the titans, really, these people. This is like, it's like in many ways that WrestleMania 6. You know, for the old timers, those old souls like me that remember from the childhood days when it was Hulk Hogan and an Ultimate Warrior. It was like WrestleMania 6. It was like, whoa, what's going on here? So, and even WrestleMania 6 is exactly, it's like it's such a hype, and then when it is, it's like there's something missing here. But yeah, so people, that's my thoughts on it. But if you haven't watched it, do check it out, and I hope they have many more of this to come. Yeah. Another point I was going to say is I did feel that that it was a bit harsh on the leftists against the left, and I agree on the fact that you have the you know, like the militant left. I agree with that. I mean, as in, because that, in a way, the militant side of any side is always, you know, it's not, it's basically just streaks of fascism on either end. But there did seem this air of just, you know, just there were certain points where they just dissed people just for having like leftist thought, and there was this thing of I don't know why they feel. You see, I'm not a Marxist, and I mean, I'd say socialist. Socialist isn't the UK just socialist? So socialist just means that you look out for people, as in there should be public welfare. So so I'm definitely socialist, and I would agree with that. But I'm also very capitalist in believing that people should make money, and they should, you know, there should be opportunities to always make money. But I don't understand there's this era of almost contempt or of hatred towards like Marxism and stuff like this, held as it is demonized. So I don't understand that. I'm not a Marxist, and to be honest, I wouldn't really want to live in a Marxist world. I definitely an ethical capitalist world would do fine as long as it has socialist values of a welfare system, pretty much like the UK, I would say. But I don't know what Boris Johnson's doing to it right now. But yeah, so but in the discussion, there were a few occasions, and I've noticed this in other discussions as well, where both Sheikh Hamza Yusuf and Jordan Peterson seem to really demonize, like the demon incarnate is Marxism. So I don't know what that's about. A good friend of mine, Momo, he seems to be really passionate these days about Marxism. So I'll have to get him one of these days on Mind Trap to understand what's I don't know what the hype is about Marxism, but I don't know what I don't understand the evil thing either. So to me, I get it. It's a bit too idealistic, and I couldn't really see it in a real world scenario. But I don't see the evil thing about. If you see my point, I just see it as a failed idealism. That's all. But yeah, so that's another little point. I did see a few jabs there as, oh my god, then we would just have a Marxist world. What the hell would that? And I thought, whoa. I thought, calmate. I thought, just take a, it's. So yeah, that's my thoughts on it, people. So Jordan Peterson is right wing. I don't think he's right wing, as in he's definitely not far right, but I think he's right aligned. Yeah, I don't get that part, but I think there's this thing about and I do sense this from Sheikh Hamza Yusuf as well. They seem to I think it's more an American thing that they feel that traditional conservative values of the Western world are somehow the default position of of the standard of ideal living. I don't know where that's from, because that doesn't. I mean, I'm not against the traditional conservative values of the West, but it's not I mean, I don't know about idealizing them either. I mean, sure, it's like anything, it comes, it goes. So I think they seem very anti anything that questions, so they seem to be very anti-liberalism, which I don't understand either, because why. And then I think we have a difference in mustalah, because I think we use the words differently. So everybody in Europe and in the UK, liberal is a good word. Liberal here means people who speak up for rights and speak up for, and I think in America they use it to mean something else. So it's very, there's a difference in mustalah. It's all terminology, people. It's all terminology. Yeah. West doubles. Somebody said Jordan Peterson comes off as a person with a lot of fear. Right, and I'm not okay. Could be. I'm not sure what that means. Is Mufti left or right? I don't know. I would think I'm. I don't know. I would think. You see, to some people, it's interesting because some people think I'm more on some. See, I think it's difficult placing someone all the way, because on some things, when some of my mates say, "Oh, Mufti, you sound just like these." These the right on someone, it's some of my mates say as a joke, oh, but yeah, but in some things I get it, that would be, oh, but isn't that all of us, that in certain things it's difficult placing people? But I would have thought I would be center left, if anything, because I would support freedoms and I support people's rights and I support And I believe in less authority to the state and more freedoms to people. That's what I believe in. Um, but then I don't know, because then when people say all these things like 100 pronouns and in all of this, I disagree. Like I just I so in that stuff I agree with. Things should just be as they are. I don't believe in just because you identify as 100 different pronouns that people have to call you different and they have to memorize all these things. And so this is why I think maybe on that discussion my mates have said, oh, I don't know, but to me that's just common sense. It's not like I'm not against their own things, but imposing it on other people. And and I and and I do strongly disagree with this whole cancel culture thing, which is just a cancer in and of itself. Yeah, salam. But let's move on, people. Yeah. So that's my thoughts on those things. I want to share with us today a hadith. And somebody said, look, is Mufti a strong Salafi? Yeah, a strong one. I mean, look at this question. Mufti, have you considered... I have considered atheism, and I believe that atheism really, I agree with Jordan Peterson when he says that I don't think anybody's, or generally speaking, is truly an atheist. I agree with that. I think even atheists are not being sincere when they say they are atheists. They just mean they are not theists in a particular sense of the word. So an atheist, they mean by that, I'm not a believer of an organized religion or an institutionalized religion but not in the sense that they don't have faith, because we all have faith. I mean, just think about it. People ask these questions. I remember a discussion I had a while back, a few years back, with an ex-Muslim, and he said, do you believe certain things to be true? And I said, well, what do you mean by true? And we got into this whole point. But just think about that. These questions, when people ask you, are laws true? Do we believe in laws to be true? What does that even mean? It doesn't mean anything. So that sentence is neither here, neither there. Are laws true? What do you mean? Do they exist? Is that what? And what does existence mean here? It just means a belief. People believe in certain things. Those things don't actually have an existence. Even freedoms, they don't actually exist. They're just a belief structure, which in many cases cannot be justified. So when people say that they don't believe in anything, that's not true. Even it is impossible for insan to not believe in the sacred. It's impossible, I feel. They must believe in the sacred. To be human is to believe in the sacred. Now the difference is, well, what do you believe in to be sacred? So people may say, oh, I don't believe in religions, but I believe in human life to be sacred. See, but that in and of itself is is more than a glimpse. It is a portion of Iman. Because how does a person believe in human life to be sacred? What does sacred even mean? Sacred is the language of religion. It's not the language of science. It's not the language of mathematics. Sacred is the language of religion. It's God speak. So when you say something is sacred, how did it become sacred? You see, now you see what I mean by it's difficult to accept that they don't believe. Even those who profess they don't believe, they still believe to some extent. So it's difficult, I feel. Nora, the pronoun issue is blown up. I've only ever heard her, she, he, him, and they, them. It's not as crazy and difficult as made out to be. Mufti. Much love right at you, Nora. Yeah, to be honest, I mean, these are the ones, these ones, they, them, and obviously he, she, her, him, these ones, everybody accepts these. And I think like that, it's these things everybody uses. It's just the other ones when they've come on these kind of TV shows and saying, I can't even recall them, j'aime, and I can't remember now. But and I remember there was there was what was the show with I think was it with Piers Morgan, where he was discussing that the BBC had instructed up to 100 different genders or something, and I find that kind of stuff, I feel at that point people have like they've kind of lost it, because I feel that these people that they're trying to fight for, they just need a fight to fight for, and they haven't got a, because nobody understands what they're saying, and at that stage where people say they are, they even, I think there was something about 36, or I'm pretty sure there was an episode where they were saying the BBC were instructing about 100 genders or something. No, I don't even think we can fathom that. I don't think the human mind even understands what that means. So, yeah, so I think it for people to just say, look, okay, enough, stop, that's fine. And that shouldn't be confused with people and genuine struggles. And this is why it's important to understand that there are genuine struggles, and then there are people just looking for a struggle. So, yeah. And so that's usually the thing as well. I remember there was when the whole Me Too thing was going on as well, and there were certain people that were I remember there was this lady on this TV show where she completely had a go at some woman who was some news reporter, or I think I don't know whether she was a news reporter, but some woman who'd come on to the whole Me Too thing, because she'd said, well, during certain discussions, I think she was a host, some men had touched her knee, and like in a discussion like that, so as they're talking, like you might kind of say, well, see, my point is, and so and she had brought this in, and she was then being berated by other people who were saying, look, you're basically sidetracking the real struggle, because you've got like gruesome sexual abuse going on, you've got Epstein and all these kind of things going on, and here you are trying to steal the thunder because somebody's touched your knee. I mean, so this was some lady was having a whole go at her, saying, look, stop trying to derail and sidetrack the real struggles of people. So these people are, real victims. She was saying this, just in case people say Mufti is saying it. Hamari ka majal. Yeah, so right, where were we, people? All right, I think I missed some super chats. Al Murabituun, shukran, much love for the super chat. I should qualify by saying you made me do it by talking of ayahuasca as sacred. I'm trying to reconcile the experience within my Muslim faith, broke my ego and spoke to me. So crazy. Yeah, DMT can do that. I feel, you see, these things, look, DMT, these things are part of the rizq that Allah has bestowed upon creation. These things, this is nature, these are plants, this is nourishment. And not just nourishment in terms of food, but nourishment of the soul. But it is in nature. Allah says, and and what He has created around you, in it are His signs. That everything leads you back to God. So DMT is incredibly powerful, unquestionably, and yeah. So and what it does is it shatters the nafs. What is called also disillusion of the self, and some people call it fana. The mystic term for it. There's another Al Murabituun. Salam Mufti, I just came home from an ayahuasca retreat. It was overwhelming. What are your thoughts on it? Muslim reconcile this experience with an intelligent entity, plant being. See, it's not about the entity. The entity, these things are like portals. They are like a gateway through which a person embarks on a mystical experience. These things are from the gifts and the ni'am that Allah has hidden in nature for His creation. So it's incredibly powerful. But I get it, these things, they're not, people say they're not for everyone, and that's fine, But those who do walk the path of consciousness and explore these things, they usually always take a person to God. So, yeah, so I would say that's, it's incredible to hear. In fact, if you're about, I'll share the link shortly, and it'd be wonderful for you to jump on and share your thoughts with us. All right, so did I miss any other super chats? I don't think so. So I wanted to share a hadith, and then I'll go on to just sharing the link and let you guys jump on. Because I came across this hadith and I thought, wallahi, that this hadith in many ways, and the chain, could be questioned, there could be discussions on it, but the meaning of the hadith, it sums, it captures Islam in practice. This is applied Islam. Because people ask, well, what is it about? This is what it is about. That anna rajulan jaa ila nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And this, I want somebody had asked me questions about sectarianism before. Somebody had said they want to refute a certain group, and somebody had said this, they had said that. This, I want you to hone in and focus on this. That a man came to the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and he said, Ayyun nas ahabbu ilallah, that who is the most beloved to God? Wa ayyul a'mali ahabbu ilallah, which actions are the best, most beloved to God? The Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, Ahabbu nasi ilallahi anfa'uhum linnas. It is the most beneficial of people to people. The most beneficial to who? To people. that is the most beloved to God. أنفعهم للناس وأحب الأعمال إلى الله, and the best of actions to Allah are سرور يدخله على مسلم أو يكشف عنه كربا. That an action, now check this out, an action by which a believer, he brings or she brings happiness into the heart of a believer. Now just think of that. That look, what is the most beloved action to God? Is it you praying lengthy salah, fasting difficult fasts, doing pilgrimages? Is it? No. Bringing happiness to the heart, in the heart of a person, or averting, relieving an agony, yakshifu anhu kurba, that you see someone in an agony that you can help in, and you help. Or yaqdi anhu daynan. Now just check this out, people, seriously. That you relieve the debt of someone else. This hadith is listing some of the, and maybe it doesn't, maybe you can't do some of these, maybe you can do different aspects of it. It's somebody maybe can do this, maybe somebody themselves is, they're struggling with debt, but they can bring some form of happiness to someone, or they can prevent a harm from someone. Oh, tatradu anhu ju'an, or a person is starving, they're hungry. Okay, no, not even starving, they're hungry. You repelled some hunger. Share some food with someone. وَلِأَنْ أَمْشِيَ مَعَ أَخٍ لِي فِي حَاجَةٍ أحب إلي من أن أعتكف في هذا المسجد, يعني مسجد المدينة شهرا. That I walk. What does this mean, I walk? It means I set off on a task. I go about on a task that is going to help a need of someone, whatever that need is. And this, it's left that somebody has a need, and you set off to help them. You know what? Today I'm going to help this person sort this out for them. That this is more beloved to me than doing i'tikaf in the Prophet's mosque. Look, it says اعتكف في هذا المسجد, يعني مسجد المدينة, شهرا, an entire month. Now from here it goes to the personal. ومن كف غضبه, and who prevented his anger. ستر الله عورته. Allah curtained him or her with his grace. You see, and here what I mean by to curtain them, to cover them, is it means all kinds of things. Humiliation. Just think about that. For a moment, let me just bring this back. Did I share this the other day? I can't remember, we were chatting with some friends, and there was something that was some people were sharing on TikTok. Some person doing something, it messaged some women, and some people they'd shared it, and they'd done an expose. People, we're in a day and age where people love these things, and some of these people. So this was it's now public knowledge on TikTok. So I was speaking to some of my mates about it, and I said, you know what? Like, you just look at this now. These conversations, it's not okay. Maybe different conversations vary, but sometimes these conversations may just be normal things, as in they're not actually something so. It's, I mean, in some cases they may be vile, but in some cases they may not even be vile. But there's this concept of satar, this of privacy. And when it's shared, it's almost like a stripping bare of the person. There's a humiliation, even though it's not like a person could just, like, let me give you an example. Like, you could just be speaking to a loved one of yours. You could be having some pillow talk here. Person could be, it doesn't have to be vile, it doesn't have to be, but there is this concept of satar, and when that's taken away, it's the being laid bare has a humiliation to it. It's amazing, isn't it? And we're in this day and age where it's a huge thriving thing for people. People turn so evil. It's amazing how evil people turn online, because they themselves are not actually that evil many of these people. So you look back at this hadith now that I was saying, that whosoever holds back their anger, satar Allahu awrata, that Allah covers them with his grace. And it's using that same word of satar, giving them satar. وَمَنْ كَظَمَ غَيْظَهُ وَلَوْ شَاءَ أَنْ يُمْضِيَهُ أَمْضَاهُ مَلَعَ اللَّهُ قَلْبَهُ رَجَاءَ يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ. And whosoever held in his or her rage in a moment where they had the capacity to act out. Like, think about it. You could have, you could have totally destroyed someone, or you could have unleashed your wrath and your anger on them, and you could have done something to them. You had the power, you had the capacity, but you didn't. Allah says that mala Allahu qalbahu, Allah fills their heart with a hope that is blessed for the afterlife. وَمَنْ مَشَى مَعَ أَخِيهِ فِي حَاجَةٍ حَتَّى تَتَهَيَّأَ لَهُ أَثْبَتَ اللَّهُ قَدْمَهُ يَوْمَ تَزُولُ الْأَقْدَامُ. Allah. And whosoever took a step in helping his brother or sister, in a person in need, just one step, Allah kept their footsteps firm on a day when the feet will slip. And that means on the day of, it means on the day of reckoning, but by extension on days of tragedies that may befall them in their lives. That wa inna su' al-khulq yufsidu al-amal kama yufsidu al-khall al-asal. What a beautiful way to end that hadith. And that, remember that even good action, if you have it, but you have bad character, it spoils it, just as vinegar would spoil honey. This hadith, wallahi, it is such a simple thing, but it sums up the entirety of Islam. That is Islam. That is it. And this is what the Prophet ﷺ came to teach. That إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِأُتَمِّمْ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. Wow. Honestly, I read this and I thought, I have to, I thought, as long as I remember, I have to share this with you guys, because this to me sums up the entirety of Islam applied. I hope that's been of some help. I'm going to share the link and you guys can jump on. Oh, right. Okay. There's a super chat. Um, let me see. Right, Mufti, who are the Ahlul Ra'i? How was their practice of Islam different? Are Mu'tazila a subcategory of them or different class? What's the difference between them? Where can I read more about them? Azhan, kya baat hai. Shukran, first of all, much love for the super chat. Kya baat hai, kya baat hai. Right, so, um, right, yeah, well, I mean, there's so many places to read up about these. It's difficult, when people say, where can I read up about them? You can, to be honest, look, you can, in fact, let me answer this question and then I'll give some words on how to learn about something. Right. So let me, so first of all, this. Who were the Ahlul Ra'i? The Ahlul Ra'i in Islam are not the Mu'tazila. The Ahlul Ra'i are from Ahlul Sunnah, and it depends on who's using the term. Some people use it pejorative, to kind of in a denigrating manner. Other people own it. So the Hanafiya are amongst the Ahlul Ra'i. Many consider the Malikiya amongst the Ahlul Ra'i. It means people who used reason. So some people use that term in a negative sense. Other people used it in a positive sense. So Ibn al-Qayyim, for example, in his A'lam al-Muwaqqi'in will argue that Imam Malik is from the Ahlul Ra'i, but he's arguing for it in a positive way. And no, it's not the Mu'tazila, unless a person was using it in a negative sense and saying, well, the Mu'tazila Ahlul Ra'i, and therefore, but usually this is used to mean the Hanafiya and people who use reason when establishing the laws of the Sharia. What else was a part of that question? Where can I read more about them? Yeah, you can. There's so much online. Just, just start off basic search. Manhum Ahlul Ra'i. Who are the Ahlul Ra'i? ماذا قيل في أهل الرأي, أهل الرأي, and just go about it. So on that thought, let me share some quick words on this is how I learn something. A couple of times people have asked me that they're trying to learn something and they can't seem to, they're struggling, and people will say, look, Mufti, can you recommend some books on a certain topic? And there's always books available. But this is how I learn. And I thought I'll share my kind of strategy. So I've done this usually with almost every major theme and topic that I've been learning, studying, especially in the last decade. That's what I've done, and it's a Socratic method of learning. And what I do is, let's say I want to learn about something, and I've used this for whatever I've done my learning in, whether it's been in certain areas of psychology, in philosophy, quantum physics, whether it's evolutionary psychology, you name it, whatever I've tried to learn, as long as it's information and not a skill, then this is how I tend to do it. Whether it's been whatever theme, whatever topic in Islam, especially within the last decade, so post having graduated. So what I do is I first of all try to learn about the who's who in something. So it could be anything. Like I want to learn about a certain. So you want to say, well, the Ahlul Ra'i. So okay, so who are the Ahlul Ra'i? Okay, the who's who. So I might get some names. So you might say, well, okay, the Ahlul Ra'i are this, or they are a group of Usuliyin, or they are a group of Fuqaha, or they are a group of, and I might get some names, I might get some, or I want to learn about a branch of psychology. Okay, this is what it is. These are some of the key names. These are some of the. Then what I do is my learning is it's all by it's all by inquiry. Okay, so I formulate a question. So I will think, and it could be a simple question, like you could start off with, well, what is Ahlul Ra'i? Okay, so Ahlul Ra'i is this. Okay, what does Ra'i mean? Okay. So I'm just asking a question. And now I will put this question in to, like, I'll search it. Let's say I'll Google it, and something will come up. I'll start reading it. And as I'm reading it, I may think, well, okay, I make it, okay, what's this point? I don't get, So imagine you speaking about Ahlul Ra'i, said this, and somebody said, well, this is more as opposed to Ahlul Hadith, the Ahlul Ra'i, Ahlul Hadith division, which is this division. So, okay, a tangent here. What's this division? I read about this, I come back to this, I finish this section. Usually, as I'm reading this, I've got other questions. I'll now ask those questions. I'll put that down. I'll start searching that. As I search this, I stem off into 5 different directions because I'll have this point here. I'll learn that. I'll come back to it. I'll do this, come back to this. Then I finished all of this. By the time I finish this, I've got like 5 other questions. And this is how I learn. And this method of learning is active learning. It's very different to just reading a book. Because, you see, reading a book is passive learning. And the thing about active learning is because it's driven by curiosity, you are much more likely to remember what you learn. Because you will only pursue those things that you are curious about. And because you're curious about them, you'll actually know them and learn them and remember them. And then usually what I'll do is I'll see if I can still recall it. Once I finish it, I will sum it up to myself. And then I'll try to see if I can recall it maybe 8 hours later. Because certain psychological studies show that if you can recall something 8 hours later, there's a greater likelihood you'll remember it. And then I'll see if I can recall it 24 hours later. Because if you can recall it 24 hours later, your likelihood of remembering it has just, it's multiplied. And then usually at some point, I will have a discussion about it with someone. I'll speak to some friends about it. I'll say, oh, by the way, I've learned this, and this was really fascinating. I was reading about this, and I'll tell someone about it, somebody that's keen to listen. And once you've done that, you've consolidated your learning. And sometimes when you're explaining it to them, you'll also identify gaps in your learning. Because you'll realize, well, they might ask you a question, or you're trying to explain it and you realize, actually, I can't explain it as well as I thought I can, because this part doesn't make sense. So when you go back, you'll research that question again, a new question, and you'll fill in those gaps. This is how I do most of my learning. This is why it's so difficult for me when people ask me to recommend a book. They will say to me, oh, Mufti, you know this topic so well. So, for example, Bukhari Gate, people would say, oh, you knew this so well. Can you recommend a book? Or let's say I was speaking about certain themes within Islam or certain topics, trajectory hermeneutics, how the ahkam change, or certain, I don't know, it could be certain aspects of Maliki fiqh, whatever it is. People say, can you recommend a book? And I struggle because I've seldom read just books from A to Z to learn something, hardly ever. I mean, I finish books now just because of the book club, but otherwise, I seldom read books like that. I read from things following a line of inquiry. So that's how, and believe me, you start doing that, you'll be surprised how much you learn. So yeah, I thought I'd share that with you guys. Is this another question? No, we've answered this. Right, I think I've shared the link. Let me bring this up. Or actually, let me see. Have I got my... Just trying to see if I had my... can't seem to. Should have had my Apple. Nope, they're not here. Can't seem to see them. All right. Well, let me just. I'll share the link whilst you guys are tuning in. I'm going to quickly just get this. Activate the Bluetooth. One moment. Okay, now hopefully. Is that connected? No. Is it wrong? Is it not connecting? It could be that this is another problem. You know, when you're connected to too many devices. Yep, I think I'm connected to too many devices. Right. Come on. Okay, hopefully, does it connect now? Connecting. Connected. All right. So I think it's connected. Do I need to go into the audio settings? Right, mic speakers. Yep, that's fine. Let me just test this. No, why is that not playing? Yep, that's better. Okay, I can hear it now. All right, people, we are live. Who do I have here? I've got Azzarrati. All right. Assalamu alaikum, Azzarrati.
Wa alaikum assalam, Shaykh. How are you doing?
I'm good, lillahi alhamd.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. I love your hairstyle, your suit, everything on point today.
Shukran, yaar, shukran. Kya baat
Always,
hai.
you're a style guru / Mufti / a philosopher /
This is my. By the way, big shout out going to my stylist.
stylist.
Yeah. Maz Milner, or I call Max Milner from Milner Fashion.
Oh,
People,
mashallah.
those of you who are around the Midlands, in fact, you don't even need to be from the Midlands, but if you're looking for suits and you're looking for stuff, Maz Milner is your guy. You just have to go to Milner Fashions. He's too awesome, too helpful. So, yep. I thought I have to, now that you reminded me, I'd forgotten what kind of ungrateful behavior is this.
The Tom Cruise, I could the Tom Cruise look.
Yeah, this is kaha Tom Cruise.
Mufti Cruise.
So talk to us, man. What's going on, Azzarrati?
Nothing, Shaykh. Everything is alhamdulillah good. I don't know if you came across, like, Muhammad Hijab also wrote on this. Like, he did an essay on his website. I think it's on free will. It's a pretty good read. I was reading it, so I just wanted to get your view. I know you had a particular view on free will, especially in God's will and stuff like that. So yeah, I just wanted to see what your thing is on free will.
Right. Yeah. No, I haven't read Muhammad.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's a very I think I would say like an half an hour read, but it's pretty good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the gist of what he's saying? If you can sum it up, that is.
Like, so that's what he was saying, that like how he the idea of free will, and as opposed to God's will, how and he starts off with forgetting the name of, it was an author who forgot the name. So it's pretty good, how he was saying, how some people think, even in atheist people, especially on free will, they don't, some of them just believe that we are like puppets, like biochemical puppets. You know,
A
even
bit,
though,
I think to some extent, even Sam Harris is
oh
of.
yeah, I think
I
it was
think to
Sam
some
Harris.
extent, yeah, he's a
Oh, I
hard
guess it was
determinist.
Sam
Yeah.
Harris. Yes, yes. So that's what he was
Mm.
elaborating. And then at the end, like he basically, you know, believes that there, like, of course, we do have free will, and he doesn't believe in the idea that, you know, there's no like, there's no free will. And yeah, so basically, it's pretty good. Like if you read, like I think you'll have like you'll do better justice in explaining it once you go through it. But yeah, it's pretty good. I thought
Sure.
maybe, yeah, it's on his Instagram too. I think the link is right there. So.
Okay. I mean, you see, because you see, I feel that these topics are like it is. Right. So
Yeah.
I feel these topics, it's impossible to kind of quench the 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 kind of the thirst of curiosity on them,
Yes.
because it's one of those topics that nobody truly will be able to answer everything. Nobody. I mean, starting from the pre-Socratics
Yes.
to today. So nobody's going to really have
Okay.
an encapsulating answer. Um, from the scientific perspective, many neuroscientists have taken a hard determinist approach, amongst them Sam Harris. I
Yes.
do disagree strongly with that. I would definitely, I would see myself from a scientific perspective more in line with people like Donald Hoffman, who argue for consciousness. You see, what they do is they flip it, and consciousness is at the fundamental it is the fundamental building block of reality. You see, because the hard determinists do it the other way, like Sam Harris. So they're saying, well, you've got the world, you've got us, within us, you've got the brain, within the brain, you've got consciousness. And consciousness is what gives rise to the illusion of free will. But so you see, people like Donald Hoffman, amongst others, they have argued that actually consciousness is at the building, it is at the fundamental ground of reality. It is not, it is what is required for reality to rise. And I would, from a scientific perspective, more be in line with those people, because I see that as the ruh, consciousness. So I would agree that this is how I see it. In terms of, obviously, do we have, because the question is, it's not, do we, you see, because you're grappling with different things. You see, you're grappling with, do we have free will? So everybody would say that, okay, we have free will, as in we have responsibilities. So even Sam Harris wouldn't say we don't have responsibilities, like we're not. So if somebody went and stabbed someone, they wouldn't say that this person isn't responsible. They would say they are. So everybody at one level is agreeing. So from a legal perspective, so you have to wear different caps. So or have different filters and lenses. So in a legal capacity, everybody's saying everybody's got free will. Okay. Then you've got religious speak. So from a religious perspective, and from a religious perspective, there's also a different challenge, because we have this zoom in, zoom out perspective, which that's how I would answer it. Other people, they would answer it because on one hand, Allah is in control of everything, but then we have free will. And then how do you marry between the two? And this is the famous traditional struggle of all the the scholars. The Maturidi have done somewhat of a better job than the Ash'aris. And so I would argue I would be in line with those who say we do have free will. We have free will in that moment, and Allah has given us that capacity to choose. And then you've got the scientific perspective. How do you answer the science? Because the science is a different argument in saying that, well, actually, our DNA and certain things carry certain markers which give that they have certain proclivities towards certain actions. And then also the tests that have shown, let's say, the brain identifying certain choices up to 7 seconds before the mind is conscious of that choice. In certain experiments, they've shown that a person would choose this, and then he does choose that. And even before he's aware that he's going to choose it, they know, because the brain, because of the nodes they've got in, what they've got in the brain, picking up the signals. So the signal exists before the person is conscious of it. So this is the neuroscience. But from that, you see, there's a difference, because from the neuroscience perspective, I would argue this from the angle of consciousness. And I would be in line with saying, well, look, that you see, it's because consciousness, obviously, we don't even know where to begin with when it comes to measuring these kind of things. We don't, there is no even, forget, are we doing it right or wrong? We've got no idea. So the other point is that there's an amazing experiment on YouTube, and if you haven't watched it, I'd love recommend everybody watches it. It's called the quantum eraser experiment, and it shows where in quantum physics where history rewrites itself depending on your choice. And it's really phenomenal. So that is, I think, the closest insan has gotten in understanding free will from a quantum physics perspective, where it's, I mean, rather than, because I would just say, just watch it. If people haven't watched it, it's the quantum eraser experiment. So basically what they do is they shoot, it's the double slit experiment, which is measured by which is the famous experiment, which slit does the subatomic particle go through. But here, whichever of the slits it goes through emits a photon, which is okay, fine, nothing so radically new about that. But then what happens is the photon is then bounced off a mirror, but the mirror has a 50% chance that it will go through and disappear, or it will be reflected. Okay, then there's like 3 mirrors in this, and each mirror has a 50% chance that the photon will go to waste. Now, if it goes to waste and disappears, then it won't be measured, so you won't know which of the slits it went through. And if you don't know which of the slits it went through, then you will find an interference pattern on the wall. But if it reflects it, and then it does 3, and then it measures it at the top. So basically, every time it goes through something, there's a 50% chance it will just shoot off. It won't reflect it. So you won't know. And if you won't know, every time you won't know, you find the pattern is an interference pattern. And it's almost impossible. How does it do this? It's as though it in this minuscule, microscopic sense of time, it rewrites history to measure what was found. I mean, you have to watch it. It's on YouTube. Like this, it sounds crazy. What I'm saying doesn't make any sense. But that is the closest I feel insan has got to in understanding the free will argument. And I think it answers it from somewhat of an Islamic perspective as well. So, yeah, the hard determinist argument, like Sam Harris. You see, one thing I would say is that, you see, even as I said in the beginning, even people like Sam Harris would argue that in a legal sense, we have free will. So that that already is he's shooting himself in the foot, because it's a contradiction. Now, he may say, well, that's what we are. He may say, well, we are just contradictions. But then it's not fair, you see, because if you're saying, and it doesn't make sense as well. You're saying this person was fated. I mean, since the Big Bang, it was fated that this person, that Hitler was to burn all these Jews alive. It was fated since the Big Bang, just by the laws of physics. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, that's like, it doesn't, it's ridiculous. And I get it. He may say, well, that's just as ridiculous as it is, but that's it. That's life. But it just doesn't, we don't buy that in any, I mean, human beings don't buy that because we don't, you see, it just doesn't settle with us. No. So
No, amazing, Shaykh. Yeah. No, because
yeah, but it is a very obviously it's such a difficult topic though.
Yeah. It's always like so fascinating to think about it. It's just, I think it's so many dimensions because we just think one dimensionally about free will. Maybe like, so that's what I was thinking. Like, for example, what goes inside a murderer's mind? Like for example, there are two possibilities. One, he takes into account that he did it, like which most of the murderers do. Like, they're mentally unstable. They're like, we did it. But what if, like he said, okay, he accepts it. It's like it was not free will. It was by God's will. So then they will be like, how can you blame it on God? But what I was thinking is, what the positive of that is, if at least he blames it on God, there is a chance that he might repent. Don't you think, Sheikh? So that would be the
if
positive.
He blames it on God.
Yes, say for example,
if he blames it on God, then why would he repent? Because he's going to say, well,
no, like
God
maybe he will, at least he believes that God exists, right? Like he believes that God is there and he blames it on him. And then maybe he gets a chance later on. He at least, I don't know, like later on down the line, he might think that, I don't know, like, at least he recognizes the fact that God exists and God, like he's blaming on God. And then maybe that same thing would probably lead him to repent. I don't know.
See, I would feel that if a person said that, in all honesty, I don't know, but I guess I'm characterizing any person who says things like that. They're not, to me, it's very difficult finding that speech to be genuine. If a person says, oh, I never did it, God made that kind of speech is very difficult for me to find it to be genuine. That it seems either they are mentally incapacitated and that they don't have, and they say these kind of things all the time, like, oh, I didn't do that, he made me do it, there's a voice in my head made me, and they genuinely have a voice in their head. And there are people like that suffering from schizophrenia and other things, and they commit murders. But if a normal person who's otherwise perfectly fine, he's got a job and he does things and everything else is him doing it, but when he comes to commit murder, he says, or rob a bank, he says, well, oh, God made me do that. It's like a cha-cha-cha. Shabash. What is it? What was that poem? What was that? Kaha, kaise aur kab? Where that poet says that हमें बुतखाने की चौखट पर खुदा याद आया. It's that this is where he remembers God. Kya baat. So yeah. But Azzarrati, it's been a pleasure.
So much. Yeah, amazing.
Shukran for joining. Take care. Stay blessed.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. People, Azzarrati, is always a pleasure. All right, let me just see who I've got on here. We've got MD Farhan. Must be Muhammad Farhan. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam, Mufti. How are you? Big fan from India.
Wow, kya baat hai. Swagatam. Where from in India? Where are you joining?
Andhra Pradesh.
From where?
Andhra Pradesh.
Andhra Pradesh. Kya baat hai, yaar. Wow. All right. So, ahlan wa sahlan. Shukran for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have people from such diverse parts of the globe. Maza aa jata
It's
hai.
India, so diverse.
So talk to us, yaar. Is it Farhan? It is, yeah. So talk to us, Farhan. What's on your precious mind?
Mufti used to listen to a couple of Salafi scholars. They
Mhm.
always used to say that they used to quote a verse from the Quran that looking at the woman is haram. Even they quote the hadith of Hazrat Ali, where he says that only one glance is okay and second glance is haram. And I recently
One,
heard that Zakir
wait,
even says that.
sorry, I missed a bit. One glass is okay, then second glass. Say that again. Sorry.
I used to listen to a lot of Salafi scholars.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
They used to say that looking at women is
Oh,
haram,
looking at a
like of any
woman.
kind.
Oh, sorry, sorry.
I,
Oh, one glance. I was right. Okay, okay,
yeah,
sorry. Yeah, yeah. I thought you
I
said
don't know they
one
got.
glass. I thought you said one glass is okay, but two glasses is too
Yeah,
much.
glass. What I mean to say is
Yeah, yeah.
glass.
No, no, no. Okay, so they're saying
Like they quote from
that
the
this.
Quran where Allah says that only one glass is allowed.
Mm,
And Zakir Naik even went to the extent that you should not even look at your teacher while she's explaining.
you should not look at the teacher while she's explaining.
Yeah, exactly. Even at talking.
Acha.
So I just want to ask, what is your take on it?
Yeah, you see, look, to me, look, okay, so first of all, look, I understand. So just to right, so people who are saying this stuff, let's first of all try to understand where they're trying to come from. So they're trying to come from an angle of saying that, look, beware, and this thought mechanism of this is is rightly placed. They're trying to say, look, the, the beware the glance of lust. This is what they're trying to say, yeah. That don't indulge yourself in lustful in the lustful gaze. Don't indulge yourself in these things. This is at the root of it, this is the message. And that message is rightly placed. There's everybody would agree. Nobody would say that that message is wrong, or a person should, or that the lustful gaze is something to be everybody kind of like adorned. And people recognize these things are that they're not good, that they are a part of our insani almost fitra, but they're not a nice side. They're the more bestial, the more animal side of insan, as opposed to the if you're to place insan in the middle of being ruh and animal, and insan is in the middle somewhere, and the less ruhi side and the more animality, the lust and the instincts and the sexual drive and all of this stuff, and greed, and these things are not good to be kind of submerged in. So everybody agrees, and this is where they're coming from, this is where it's stemming from. So just to kind of explain that, so they're not this nasiha that they're giving isn't coming from somewhere alien. It's coming from from a nice place. But sometimes what happens is people can, you see, they step out of being natural. I would say that, look, these messages, everybody understands, or they should understand, that this message of saying, look, just recognize, like just being aware that certain things are not healthy. Now, I'm not saying you're not going to do it. We're all going to do
Yeah,
it. Look, greed is not healthy, but you're going to be greedy. I'm going to be greedy. Such bad. Like, let's not
yeah,
lie to ourselves. We're going to be greedy, and greed is a necessary force for the world to move. Because I'm greedy, because I have some greed, I'm going to try to start a new business. I'm going to try to work hard to make more money. I'm going to try to do, thodi bahut lalach hai. We've got this greed, magar chalta hai yaar. I recognize the important thing is understanding this is not healthy to become consumed by greed. It's not healthy, but it's a necessary component in in life. It is there, and it's important because of it. We do certain things, but we have to have checks and balances. If I start indulging in greed, if I start just I need things, so it's about becoming aware that, look, I will do these things in life. I will, of course I'm going to do that. Of course I'm going to be greedy. Of course I'm going to be these things. But just having an awareness where, let's hope I don't transgress. And I will transgress. This is the maze ki baat. I will, because by greed, by necessarily, I will transgress at certain points. So similarly, look, like lust. You see, it's a necessary component, because without it, no procreation would take place.
Yes.
Relationships would never happen. People would not, pursue one another. People wouldn't have babies. They wouldn't, it's a necessary part of our instincts. And you and I, and we all are going to have this glance. And it's going to happen at times, whether we like it or not. We're going to see something, people will look, but it's about trying to, where possible, bring that awareness in, that, look, that we're going to overstep. People will always look, they will always, but where you can, try to curb in your things, but we have to be natural. The problem is, sometimes some people go to a step where they, in order to stop all of these, they put in a lot of extra steps that are very unnatural. Like, when I talk to you, don't even look at you, like, look over there, and then talk.
Exactly, I was gonna say the same thing. Sagnak said exactly the same thing. Don't even look when he's talking to you.
And then you see, but then what happens is, the problem is, sometimes you become very awkward, right? So you remove
I
the
had a
natural
situation,
thing.
exactly in my first year of college, where a lady was giving lecture and I was so into Salafism, I didn't look to her. Then then the management called me and said, what's wrong with you? Why you weren't looking at her?
And
Aren't you interested? It landed in a very awkward situation.
And look, so one is, it gets very awkward. Two is, it becomes very unnatural, and it makes the other person equally uncomfortable. Look,
Yeah, very much.
there's a difference between, lust and just looking and admiring, even. Like, look, somebody looks at somebody and might think, oh, wow, this person's very beautiful, or this person's very handsome, or this person's or they might just think, wow, or you might even look at a car, you might look at an object even, and think, oh, wow. And there's a difference between that gazing look of lust, where a person is like they want to devour them with their eyes. That look makes people very uncomfortable, and people can tell. Like, let's say right now we're talking about from the glance of men towards women. Let's say women can tell which look it is. They can tell, just the kind of, the appreciative look, or the kind of lustful look. It has a very horrible vibe to it that the other person can tell. The eyes are the windows to a person's soul. And you see, when you look at them with that lust, you can make a person feel very uncomfortable. And that's not right, making them feel. But when you ignore a person and be very awkward, you can equally make them feel very uncomfortable when you're talking to them. Because the person thinks, I'm trying to talk to you, and you're making this unnecessarily awkward. You're kind of looking like this, and you're being all robotic and almost autistic when you're talking to me. But you talk to other people normally, and so you're creating the same, like a different awkwardness. Like, it's different, but so I would say that if you can be natural, in my understanding, Allahu A'lam, is if a person, this isn't, forget my understanding, read yourself, read the literature, read the time of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, read the people and the Salaf, read the time of the Salaf, the Sahaba, the Tabi'een. They seem to just be very normal. They don't seem to, this is how it appears. Maybe I'm wrong, and somebody could say, well, actually, look, you're wrong because of this, but I've not seen it as wrong. This is how it appears, that they seem to be very normal. They seem to talk to each other. They seem to see each other. They seem to mix with each other. They seem to, they seem to be a part and parcel of the general society. This is very clear in the time of, you'll get fatwas of Imam Malik saying, people, a man and his wife are sitting with another man and his wife, and they're having dinner together. They invite each other for dinner as friends, not as family. And they're obviously eating in front of each other, and they're doing all of and they must be, if you're eating in front of each other, what are you just go? Then you just tell them not to sit in this room, if you're going to be all awkward. So I would say, look, just be natural as possible, and try to just be aware not to make people uncomfortable. Look, sometimes people may do things because they may, but try to become aware if you can, and not, the main thing is, look, it is not, the akhlaq of Islam, the adab of Islam is not to, it's wrong to make people uncomfortable. And if you are making people uncomfortable, you need to have checks and balances. But otherwise, just to be natural, you talk to people, they're a human being. You don't, look, if you talk to someone, people say, if you talk to them, you might fancy them. Of course you may fancy them, but that's a natural part. Like men and women, they will appreciate each other. Like they may think, well, oh, she's very beautiful. That person may think that. It doesn't mean now that he thinks she's very beautiful, he's going to pounce on her. Or she's going to, that when does that happen? So, and you have this hadith in Sahih Muslim that the cousin of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Fadl, Fadl ibn Abbas, is with the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and they're approached by this woman, and it's the famous hadith where the woman is she says to the Prophet that, look, she's interested in marrying the Prophet. She says, would you be interested? The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, this is the final year of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and he's not interested in marrying, but he's speaking to the woman, and everybody's there. This is after the pilgrimage, so this is at the pilgrimage, sorry. So Fadl, who's with the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and he's sitting in front of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the hadith in Sahih Muslim mentions that he is looking at this woman because he's enchanted by her beauty, and he's not just looking, he's going up, down, up, down. It says, ثُمَّ سَعَدَ النَّظَرِ ثُمَّ سَعَدَ النَّظَرِ. He's taking his eyes up and down, and he looks at, and then the Prophet looks at him. And this is uncomfortable, isn't it? Because look at this, yard. Like, the Prophet's talking to her, and yard is looking up, and the Prophet kind of like, because he's sitting in front of the Prophet just slightly, gently moves his face, carries on, and he looks back. And then the Prophet slightly moves his face again. And then he looks back again. And the Prophet this time moves his face, and then he says to him, look, he says, yeah, behave. And he says to the Prophet, like, what? He says, what did I do? And the Prophet says nothing. He says, look, I saw a young man and a young, and I could sense the hot-bloodedness, and I feared the shaitan. But the Prophet never said to him, what are you doing? How dare you? This is haram. How dare you look at her? And this is, the Prophet just said to him, look, like, and the Prophet gently just said to him, look, This isn't appropriate. But that's it, not in a sense, and that's in Sahih Muslim. So it doesn't mean when people look at someone, and even if they like them, that they pounce on them. That doesn't happen. So, people say, oh my God, but if you like her, you're going to, God knows what you're going to do. No, you need to, I think we need to stop teaching people that just because they like someone, that they may do something to them. That seldom happens in normal societies. I'm just saying. So people need to become more in charge of their own ego, of their nafs. They need to have responsibility. Rather than treating them like a child, we can empower them with responsibility. That there is a fitra, there is a ghariza, there's a, we have that in us. We're going to attraction, but don't make people uncomfortable. This ain't the akhlaq of Islam. It's not. And how does that make you feel? How did you really, think about it? If you really thought somebody was, they fascinated you and you were attracted to them, you wouldn't want to make them uncomfortable, because then they're definitely not going to like you. Because if a person thinks, well, this person, so you'd rather empower them with maturity than saying to them, look, don't even, yaar, galti se mistake ho. I mean, but this is where the when you said the Salafi shuyukh that you were listening to, but this is where they're coming from. Where they're coming from is it is a correct understanding. They're trying to say, don't indulge the lustful gaze, but they're going about it in a way, in saddu zara'i, in saying, well, don't even look. The other way is saying, well, look, just be natural, and if you find yourself doing certain things, then just you have to refrain, because you're making people uncomfortable. So I hope that helps, Farhan. But
Mufti, another small question.
Oh, right.
If you don't mind.
Let's.
Imam Shafii was their favorite student of Imam Malik.
Okay.
Then why did he just follow the Maliki madhab? Just answer this short.
No, say that again. Was Imam Shafii was the favorite student of who?
They say he was the favorite student of Imam Malik.
You know what? That's not really true. You see, these are just nice things that people say. So, because obviously Imam Shafii is a huge personality. So people say, and he studied with Imam Malik, and he was a student of Imam Malik. So people say, oh, he was amongst his favorites. He was, you see, Imam Shafii was just a little boy. Imam Malik was an old man. He wasn't really from his, he came to him, when Imam Shafii came to him, Imam Malik didn't even first accept him. He said to him, go away, I haven't got time for little kids. But because he bought a letter from someone special who said, look, please accept him. So then he allowed him to just read the Muwatta to him. But Imam Malik's real students were so if you take a look, and Imam Shafii, I'm not sure, I've read mixed reports. How long did he spend with Imam Malik? Some people say maybe 1 year. I think I've read somewhere maybe 2 years. I read somewhere, I think even less, maybe a few months. But when you look at Imam Malik's actual student, and this, you have to remember, Imam Malik is, because look, Imam Shafii is born in 150 Hijri. 150 Hijri. Imam Malik passes away in 179, right, at the age of 93 or something like that. So he's very old. When Imam Malik is in his 90s, Imam Shafii is just in his 20s. Do you understand? So when he came to Imam Malik, he didn't come in his 20s. He came to Imam Malik, I think, in his early teens. He might have been maybe 14 or 15. So Imam Malik is quite an old man by then. obviously, gone are the days Imam Malik was, a strong young man, and when he was obviously when he was going through all
Not
the
here.
big thing. And so in that day and age, Josho Kharosh mein, there's many students of his that used to come with him from that time. Like if you look at people like Ibn Abdurrahman ibn al-Qasim, who was with him for 20 years, or Ashhab, who was with him for 20 years, or Ibn Wahab, Abdullah ibn Wahab, who was with him for 30 years, or Ibn Ghanim, or Ali ibn Zayyad, or people like all these people, even his Medinan students, Majishun, was with him, his own nephews, who, like, these people were really his kind of people that he really hung out with, he kind of talked to, he even in his final years who was with. And his relationship with Imam Shafi'i, obviously it was nice, it was but Imam Shafi'i was too young when Imam Malik was there. Like, he hadn't fully ripened. Then he went, obviously Imam Malik was still alive, but he had gone, because he was only with him a little while, and then he went off. And to be fair, I think, Imam Shafi'i prided himself as having been a student of Imam Malik. He really for very long he would say ashabuna, like our ashab Malik. But I think the thing was that because Imam Malik's students didn't recognize Shafi'i, I think that may have been one of the reasons amongst many that led Imam Shafi'i to kind of take a different path, because rejection, because he wasn't really because you see, when Imam Shafi'i leaves Imam Malik, he goes to Iraq. I mean, he travels, he goes Yemen as well, but he goes to Iraq and he studies with the great Hanafis. And there he considers,
I think Imam Muhammad he studied with.
Imam Muhammad, Imam Muhammad, he studies with Imam Muhammad. And here he considers himself from the students of Malik. He would say often Sahibi and Sahibukum. But then you see afterwards, Imam Malik's passed away now, and then Imam Shafi'i goes to Egypt, and all of Malik's great students are in Egypt, or a lot of, not all, but many of his, and they dominate the scene, and they don't really recognize Shafi'i as even a student really of Malik, because who is he compared to them? So they think like, yaar, kal ka bachcha hai, like this guy's what is. So this rivalry that he has, because he has a lot of rivalry in Egypt with Malik students. So Ashhab, for example, who's Imam Malik's student, him and Ashhab were at loggerheads right up until, in fact, he claims that Ashhab hated him. Maybe because you see, the problem is, then Imam, sometimes baat se baat nikalti hai. Like let's say I reject you now, like you come here with great hope, and then I don't acknowledge you, I kind of, and rejection can mean like I don't show you any importance. Now you feel rejected, then you see what happens sometimes, that has a negative reaction. Then you see, and imagine I say to you, oh, but this Imam Malik, now you see, you might start questioning Imam Malik, because maybe our dynamics are not good. So Imam Shafi'i then starts turning against Imam Malik, because
Hamza used to study the lecture when he went to Egypt. People started asking Imam Shafi'i, how did Imam Malik take? How did he walk? Like they wanted to know about Imam Malik. But Shafi'i thought it was, why don't they ask about the Prophet?
This is what Imam Shafi'i claims. You see, the truth is, why would they ask Imam Shafi'i how Imam Malik walked when they've got his students who lived with him for decades? Why won't they ask him? They were asking him. They were asking the others. They weren't asking Shafi'i any of this. Shafi'i, when he comes there, Imam Shafi'i, the truth is he doesn't get the the respect that maybe he felt he should have had, and they should have been. I do think they should have shown him more respect, but they didn't. And he felt that this was a sign of rejection, so he started to say things like, and he did start saying, "Oh, you guys think that the world of Malik," and he started to diss Imam Malik in some things. He started to say, "What is Imam Malik? Imam Layth ibn Sa'ad is more knowledgeable than Malik." He started saying things like this, and he wrote his book. In his in his Kitab al he has a section Ar-Rad ala Imam Malik. He starts doing Rad against Imam Malik. And so obviously, you see, to them, he's a nobody because they're thinking, well, who are you? And so then he has to kind of make his own way. And this is why Ashhab and these people really didn't like him. And he says, he has his poem, Shafi'i, Tamanna rijalu an amuta wa in amut. Fatilka sabilun lastu fiha bi awhadi. That he says that they wish that I die, and if I die, so what? I'm not going to die alone. And he's talking about Ashhab, and Ashhab dies before him, I think. But I think they both die in the same year, 204 Hijri, and they're buried actually quite very close by. And in the end, they say that it's actually, they say Imam Shafi'i, arguably, they say that he was beaten up by some Malikis, and then he died consequently because of that beating or something. So it's not nice.
Or is it just a folk story that he died by the beatings?
Yes, so I think because he was beaten up by some of the Imam Malik students, not the main students, but some of the other ones, and then he became sick because of that beating, and then eventually he died. And that's obviously wrong. All that stuff it should never have happened. It's wrong and stuff. But this is the thing, you see. The chalo, chalta hai. I think they were all amazing people. I do think sometimes there was a bit of siyasat to it, a bit of rajniti, shall we say, a bit of politics did creep in. I think Imam Shafi'i loved Imam Malik, and if he never set foot in Egypt, he would have always loved Imam Malik. Like he said, if you mention the scholars, then Malik is the star.
Yeah.
Malik and Najm. But then, when he went to Egypt, and sometimes it happens because I have a problem with you, then the people, whatever you represent, I start going against that. Because even though I don't have a problem with it, but like, let's say you love football or you love cricket, and I don't mind cricket, but now I have a problem with you and you love cricket. So I start saying, yeah, well, cricket's dumb anyway. Just to get at you. So sometimes these things happen, and his comments where he said about Imam Malik, and he said, well, Imam Malik wasn't all that, and I feel those were just statements he said to get back at the people. And even his book Ar-Rad ala Imam Malik, I think it's really just to get back at those people, really, because he kind of felt that they didn't give him the importance they should have given him. But they were all great people. They were all. Imam Shafi'i was an amazing individual. He was very gifted, very talented. They all were in their own ways, and they've left a legacy for us. It's fun sometimes to learn about all of this, and mazata, but we should respect all of them in their own way. I sometimes, when I mention some of this stuff, some people say, oh my God, you can't mention it because, oh my God, it's showing they could never have thought this about each other. But
sometimes what they really wonder, that we do have Malik and Shafii in India,
Yeah,
we hardly have any Shafii and Maliki here.
Shafii, I think you do in the south. I think
in Mumbai,
South India.
we don't have in South. It's in Mumbai, Maharashtra. Maliki, I don't think we'll have.
Malikis, I don't think. Maliki shuru karna padega. We'll have to start
Inshallah.
the school of Medina, inshallah. Farhan, it's been an absolute pleasure
Yeah.
having you on.
Thanks
Take
a lot,
care.
Mufti.
Yeah, inshallah. Speak soon. Much love. People, that was Muhammad Farhan, all the way from India, people. Let me just... All right, who have we got here? We've got right, I can't see if you can switch on your webcam. What I'm going to do is I'll also just share the link once again.
Hello? Oh. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Oh, sorry, I can
Okay,
loud and
sorry.
clear.
Sorry.
Sorry, my bad, people.
I thought it...
The button got pressed here by accident, man. So what's going on, people? What's going on? Al Murabituun. Ya salam.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam. Talk to us, Al
How are you,
Murabituun.
Mufti?
Where are you joining us from, first and foremost?
I'm joining you from Copenhagen, Denmark.
Allah, Allah.
Yeah.
The land of one of the first hypotheses given to quantum physics, the Copenhagen hypothesis. The Copenhagen, they have it's called the Copenhagen explanation, which is that when you observe the quantum realm, it collapses. I think they name it the Copenhagen because when they were arriving at the experiment and the results, it was done from Copenhagen. That's why they just call it the Copenhagen kind of hypothesis. But yes, talk to us. I can see you're fresh, right in the jungle, right in the...
No, it was I was asking questions earlier on the Superchat about ayahuasca, so I thought it could be funny to put a jungle behind me. Yeah.
Talk to us fresh from Mother Nature, huh?
Yeah. No, I wasn't in the jungle. I was just here in Denmark, but no, yeah, I just... No, I came home from a retreat for 3 days on an island.
3 days. Wow.
Yeah, and I did 2 ayahuasca ceremonies.
Wow.
Actually. And,
what? Sorry. What's your? Do you mind your name or?
My name is Yunus.
Yunus. I just...
Yeah.
So Yunus, do you mind me asking? Had you, prior to... I want to just come to the ayahuasca thing, but prior to the ayahuasca, had you embarked on anything, any mushrooms, anything else, or was it just pure the deep dive?
Yeah. I've never tried anything at all. I haven't even tried a smoke. So the reason for my interest in psychedelics, etc., was because I had some stress-related symptoms, I guess, in my body.
Okay.
And so I contacted somebody, and I got some psilocybin in capsules, like in pills.
Psilocybin is the active ingredient from mushrooms for people.
Yeah, so it's pretty good for... It's supposed to be good for anxiety, etc., etc. So I was thinking about microdosing just to try it out.
Okay, wow.
Just 1 pill Monday, Thursday. So, but I didn't...
What days, huh? Monday, Thursday. Wow.
Yeah. So, but anyways, I didn't start with it because then I stumbled across ayahuasca, and I remember you spoke about psychedelics and ayahuasca, and was like, okay, so it's not haram. Maybe there's something to it that it could actually be beneficial, and so I was just started to research, and there's some Danish scientists are starting to research it, the psilocybin, etc.
See, and I just want to just say here, you see the key operative word here, people. You see, following on from what you just said, that look, you don't believe it's haram, because I don't believe it's haram, and I've got a video. But the key word you said there is I researched it. You see, once I had interest, I started to research it, and you started to explore it yourself, like as in learn about it. But sorry, carry on.
Yeah. And obviously, you know, way back, I listened to Mike Tyson talk about DMT and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And so I just I stumbled across a website where they offer those retreats here in Denmark. So I was like, okay, I don't need to go to the jungle.
Wow.
So I just in 2 weeks I just I did the diet.
Okay.
Because 2 weeks prior to the ceremony you have to do a diet.
They want you to do a certain diet.
A certain diet, yeah. So yeah, and I went there. I was so nervous because you don't know anybody, you know the people. It takes so much trust.
It is, man, because I mean that is something, and so because that is an advanced level. You know, you've gone straight into the advanced. You've not joined the. There is no. You didn't even waste time with an intermediate. You said, I want straight into advanced, which is DMT. Yeah. So okay, so you turn up, and then
man, it was. I mean, I turned up and it was a nice place. People were hugging, so nice, etc., etc. I was like, okay, I had my own room, but I was so nervous because so I just kept walking for hours. I was
freaky,
like, oh my god, it was freaky.
Sometimes you just don't want to think about it because
I didn't want to think about it. I'm just gonna keep walking, moving, and just doing other stuff. I was just praying so much, like, please don't let me die. I was like praying to God, and it's so intense. It's like, oh my God, I'm gonna die, you know, and I'm on an island, and I didn't really tell anybody, you know, because the stigma said I'm not gonna tell my parents, I'm gonna go on an island drink some. So I just said, okay, it's
some tea. I'm going to drink some chai.
I'm gonna go meet God and maybe die a couple of times and come back, but no. Yeah, so there were 2 ceremonies, and I drank the cup, and he called. I mean, it's like there are mattresses in a room, and it's a little bit weird. It's like they blow smoke out and they sing songs, etc. And it's like, anyway,
I mean, that's the kind of ceremony thing. But okay.
Yeah. Anyways, I drank the cup, and I was just like laying there and then waiting for something to happen. I was like, oh my God, and then it was just like I just had a fever, like a kind of feverish warmth and extreme nausea. So I was like, I called him, was like, oh, get this out of me. I wanted to stop because it was so.
Because ayahuasca does that, doesn't it? Because it gives a whole sickening kind of feeling, and it's a very you often throw up.
You throw up. They call it the purge because you throw up
la purga.
Yeah. So so it was just a lot of nausea, and then in the end of the ceremony, I was just like, you know, saying sorry to God, please, you know, I'm gonna, you know, just like an intense kind of the dua. I was like, just crying, etc. That was the first ceremony.
Okay.
And the second ceremony was crazy because it was in a tent, and there was a big fire in the middle of the tent. Okay. So the atmosphere was just much more intense. But the second time was just, I had they gave me an advice. They said, don't fight it the next time. Just relax and just accept it.
I find
the more you struggle, the more the medicine is going to tear you apart because your ego doesn't want to let go.
Yeah, you know, it's amazing because at its core, the message is to aslim, to surrender.
Yeah,
you know, that submit.
Yeah,
it's amazing because that is
crazy.
It reflects, you know, intimates these messages of faith that, like, you just surrender, submit.
Yeah,
Allah.
And I tried it, so I just laid there and I was like, just relax, and I didn't get any nausea, but then I just felt it like boom. It was just, it was like a hug, and I could just see like something from nature just trying to encompass you, trying to you know, to just overwhelm you. And it's like, please don't hurt me, etc. Don't if you know, just be gentle, don't kill me. And then it just became so overwhelming to let go of control. So I just panicked and I just freaked out. I was like moving and oh my god. The more I resisted, then it went away like a scared animal.
Okay.
And then when I relaxed again, it came back. And then I was like, get me out of it, get me out of it. And then they can't get you out of it because once you drink the cup, you're in it. You're you're in for the ride. So
you
and,
you better. That's it.
but anyways,
Buckle
so
up.
I buckle up. There's no, I mean,
It's-
so I just it
Yeah.
felt like dying, not to scare anyone, but it just felt like dying. It was just turning, twisting.
Yeah.
And then I went outside the tent and I just, vomited on the grass because of the purging.
Yeah.
And so many things were happening. Like one of the guests was like a guy from Saudi Arabia, and he was pretty he was a specialist basically, and he did it himself. He goes to Peru, he buys the ayahuasca, and he does ceremonies.
Yeah, you get many.
So
There's
while I
many
was
Muslims that are well into
yeah,
this. It's just that
but
because of the culture, they just
yeah,
people are doing it. They're a part of it, but they're not. It's not at that kind of the publicized because of the culture. Because most
yeah,
people deem it's haram, so
it's
some
illegal as
people
well.
don't. Yeah, because of the
It's illegal.
legality issues as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
So, anyways, I just I went in and I just I wanted to get off the island. I was like, give me my phone so I can call my mother.
So
Give me a
how long are
doctor.
you into this now? How long are you
Uh,
at this stage?
it
How
takes
many hours into you?
It's 4 to 6 hours.
No,
when you
where
drink the cup.
you're at this. No, where you're at this point. How many hours are you in? You know what you're saying? I've gone thrown up, and I'm
I was only in for this was about an hour in.
1 hour in. Okay.
Yeah, 1 hour
Mhm.
in. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, anyways, I went into a separate room and then I could just feel it like some type of deep healing. Like, and I could hear a voice. It's like it just said, "Relax, relax." Like I heard its intention, and then I could see a blinking light. Like it showed me kind of my nervous system, and it was fixing my nerves, and I could physically feel it. Deep down inside, I could feel it repairing like fixing something that was broken.
Wow.
So yeah, it was so crazy. I was like, oh my god, it's so beautiful. Look at what it's doing. It's helping me. Blah blah blah. And the helper was lying next to me. Yes. And after that, I was just my ego just broke. I just cried, and some trauma maybe from childhood came up, etc. And I was just talking, and that's when I realized, okay, it had broken down the layers of egos and all the narratives and the self that you build up
Yeah.
over years. It had peeled them off, and then I just felt connected with everything alive. Like I just
you-
felt the pure
that's-
love for everything. The ego was just had to dissolve.
It's
You know what I mean?
amazing.
And yeah,
As the
it's
ego
I don't,
dissolves, the
yeah,
sensation of love that
yeah,
a person
yeah.
has for it's
No
like you
hatred, no
become.
envy.
Yeah.
All the
Wow. It's
hatred
so
and
true.
anger I had towards people, it was gone. I just wanted to love. It didn't matter anymore.
And it doesn't, and also it doesn't make sense. Like you think, like you
Yeah.
almost feel sorry that why do people have hate?
Yeah,
Like you think, yeah, like like they should just be love. Like I don't
yeah.
understand why people are like they're hurting themselves by
We're
carrying
hurt. Yeah,
hatred.
yeah. We're hurting ourselves. Yeah.
And
You're
it's
not.
like you feel the pain for them, like for people that harbor hate, and you're thinking, but this is harming you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's amazing how
Yeah.
wow. So
Yeah.
okay, and
So I had just become a person I wasn't. Like you've just become someone that you aren't really in essence. So yeah, I mean, anyways, when I came back, it was just so overwhelming, and
did
yeah,
you have any complete out of body experience like that? Did you feel
no,
did you close your eyes and
I
lie
closed
down?
my I
Yeah.
closed, yeah, I lied down and I closed my eyes. but it wasn't an out of body experience. But I could feel it did
Yeah.
feel like something alien,
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
outside
Yeah. Sure.
of your
No, of
being.
course, of course, of course, of
So
course.
I can't really explain what it is, but it's
No,
I
you
felt
can't. You can't
definitely
put
that
it into words.
it was I felt like it was an intelligent force, but
Hmm.
it's hard to
Di-
it's hard to
You
yeah.
know, this is the thing. The things that did you see things and
I saw my because my grandfather he passed away 6 months ago during Corona, and I didn't really get to mourn him, etc. And we couldn't really go there because of the Corona restrictions, as he died. So I guess there was something that was unresolved in my chest or my heart or whatever. But I saw his home
okay, wow.
in Morocco, etc., and up in the mountains. So I just felt he was at peace. I just got an overwhelming sense that
Wow.
okay, he's okay.
Alhamdulillah.
He's part of everything. Like
Yeah. Do you feel,
so,
you know,
yeah,
that feeling of being connected with
yeah,
everything, that there
yeah,
is a connection between us all.
yeah. He's yeah.
Yeah.
I felt really connected deeply with every living organism. Like it's like you tap into a network of everything that is alive. You just feel connected.
And you
So
know this thing. See, did you have many other? Did you have many visuals as well, or like
no,
they
I
see
only
colors, they see things. They
no. I
did
just
you
in the
have some
beginning.
of that?
No, when it started, when it was trying to enter you basically on a deep level,
Yeah,
it was just a picture of um
creeping in.
creeping in, and just
Yeah,
I couldn't really visualize something, but I was thinking like roots,
yeah,
like
yeah.
grass,
Like taking,
yeah,
like
it's
kind of
just
creeping in on you,
yeah,
consuming you almost.
consuming me. Yeah.
That like a death doing it. Yeah,
Like a
yeah.
death, like a death, like a part of death, and it's like it was so hard to let go of control. It was so terrifying. It was like, oh my god, I'm gonna die here.
This is why I asked
Yeah,
that
yeah,
at the beginning. That did you do anything before you did it? Like, did you ever do any mushrooms or
yeah,
anything? Because
yeah,
it's such an advanced thing to kind of embark on, and yeah, it's because it's and if a person's never experienced letting go and submitting,
yeah,
they've never truly submitted and surrendered, and they take a deep dive into something like this. I
yeah.
mean, I suppose once you've taken the dive, it's like once you jump, well, gravity's going to do what it's got to do now. So there's no
uh,
turning back. But
no,
it's scary as hell. So
yeah.
I was
So,
thinking, wow, okay,
but yeah, and then when I came back, the important part of the story is probably the work after. So
wow,
I could walk around. I didn't have any hatred or negative
yeah,
thoughts
salam,
or anxiety or anything.
Allahu Akbar.
It was amazing, and I could just I could hug my family members. I could hug my mother, kiss her, say I love
And
you.
this and
I didn't
I tell
care.
you something, and it seems afterwards that what is all this things, what is all this fighting and all
Yeah,
this thing of this dunya about? Like, why are
so
we
pointless.
wasting our energy? It's so
Yeah,
pointless, isn't it? And it
yeah.
feels
It
so
feels like
extra
that. Yeah,
pointless
yeah.
at that time, and it
Really, yeah,
feels like, yeah, and you just wish you could show it to people how
yeah,
pointless this pettiness is. Doesn't
yeah,
mean anything. It's like somebody asked earlier on today about they said, oh, I've got this group and this sectarianism and the Salafis, and I've got the Ahmadis, and I've got this, and I've got, and you want to explain to people that, look, all this infighting, all this, yeah, it doesn't mean anything. Like, what
yeah.
is
The
you're
ego,
missing that. Yeah,
the ego is just a crazy thing, man. It's really because beneath all the layers is just you just have love for everything. I think most people are like this.
it's
You know what I
amazing
mean?
how
It's just
yeah,
layers we've built
it
up,
is.
and
And some people, from a psychological perspective, they say that one theory is that, you see, at our core insan, would be, or this is from a psychological perspective, that humans would be so connected with all forms of life. Because look, life, like plants, animals, humans, we at a core level are all connected through DNA. Like we have the same, like obviously we're more, we're different. We're not part of the plant kingdom, but we have some relation of life. And it's interesting how Allah says in the Quran that min al ma, it is from that He ja'ala kulla shay, that if all of life, it had one point of origin from this kind of primordial liquid. Now this primordial soup of life, or whatever it is, so we have some connection. Now one theory of psychology says that in human beings, in order to survive, right, it needed to reinforce this notion of the ego, because it needed to kill, it needed to hunt, it needed to, and you couldn't do it with that much compassion and empathy and that much love, because it would kill you to kill the prey. So the human, it needed this isolated ego to survive, because it needed to hunt, and to do that, it needed to separate itself, that this is me and that's not me, and I can kill it because I need to. Do you see, at a very brutal survival level? And it's interesting that, you see, because ultimately, because this is that, where Allah has created us, but we have that asfal safilin, but we also ahsan taqweem. And insan, I don't know, it's our journey in between, I guess, if we can find that. But once found, just even just having that, this is what the mystics called dhawq, that it's only something you said I can't explain it in words, because it's from dhawq, it's what the mystics call the Sufia, these people would call it the dhawq, that you can only taste it, it's experiential, you can't put these things into words, that kind of love, that kind of compassion. But yeah, it's so wow, okay, that's something, man. It's
I just wanted to share it and just get your perspective on it, because I probably wouldn't have done it if I didn't got the green light. If you haven't had your videos,
look, I think it's interesting that, look, people see it differently. My perspective is this: look, there will be many people who feel that this is haram. Okay, that's fine. They should not do it then. Okay, because to them this is haram, that's fine. I do have a video where I highlight that, look, that this is not haram based on these, and people can disagree. That's okay. It's okay. If they, like in the madhabs, I have a video showing all the kind of meat that different madhabs believe is haram. Like according to the Hanafi madhab, apart from docile animals, everything is haram. And according to one end of the Maliki madhab, apart from pig, nothing is haram. So, whether a person was eating tiger meat or crocodile meat or eagles or anything, it's not haram. So according to the other thing, almost everything apart from poultry and beef and this and that, is everything else is almost haram. So you have, and the point is, what you follow is your devotion to God. Now there is this hadith that, look, ma anzalallahu da'an illa wa anzala lahu shifa'an, that Allah has not, that there is not in an ailment or a disease or a sickness of any sort, including anxiety, including depression, including, there is none of these things except Allah has sent, revealed in nature, anzala, where in nature, lahu shifa, and there is a shifa for it in some herb, in some plant, in some fruit. And then the hadith says, alimahu man alim wa jahilahu man jahil. Whosoever came to know of it, came to know of it. Whosoever did not come to know of it, did not come to know of it. And then the hadith says, illa al-maut, except maut. Everything else, it will have something to be discovered. And this, I feel, is, it's an amazing part of nature, which Allah is from Allah. It's not these things. And I feel that it's difficult for an atheist to experience this and come back an atheist. It's, to me, that
Good luck.
is just people.
Good luck.
It's
Try
very
it.
difficult. Yeah, and tell me, this is
Good luck.
when people say, Yunus, oh,
Yeah.
but it's just in your mind.
Yeah, good. I mean, good. Yeah, I mean,
You say, well, you say, I'm not so sure about that, because
yeah,
I know what right now I've got things in my mind.
yeah,
I dream, let's
Yeah.
say, every night. I know what dreams feel like.
yeah,
I know what daydreaming feels like. I know what imagining things feels like.
yeah. No,
I know
this is
what
not
real
bad.
feels like.
Yeah,
And this feels more real than real. So what am I supposed to do with it?
yeah, yeah.
And so,
There's, yeah. No, it's
yeah. And what about the clarity and, and something that is a source of love and peace? And it's true, because I said once that, I was saying it in jest, but I was saying it as a joke, but I was, there was a hint of truthfulness to it. I said that it should really be mandatory for all world leaders to take this, sacred medicine, because
yeah,
the world would be a different place.
definitely.
You imagine Putin had taken, it was on, the truth is, you don't, the world changes for a person.
Yeah.
They don't want to harm people. They don't want to, they want to be a source of love for people. They want to, in fact, they feel, what, their empathy increases when they see people suffering. It hurts them, and it hurts them so much. Like, even to see them doing wrong, which that person isn't obviously in a state of suffering, they're just hateful about something. It hurts this people to see it, because they think that, man, they're harming themselves by being a source of hate. So
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing about it all, is that the hate, the anger, the hostility, it only hurts yourself. That's the problem.
yeah,
And people, we do it when we try to, as a defense mechanism, when people hurt
yeah,
us, stuff like that, when we
exactly.
experience bad things. So we do these things in order to protect ourselves. But the problem ultimately is that we end up hurting ourselves, because we become distant from who we really are. That core, that, as you said, the essence of love, etc. So you just you risk ending up becoming a person that you are not really, that you aren't really.
Yeah,
So that's what the medicine does. It shows you who you really are.
yeah.
So
And
yeah,
I get it. I got into a discussion recently with this retired doctor, this lady, non-Muslim, and we spoke about this. And she'd worked in palliative care as well, and she wasn't a fan of psychedelics. And it's interesting, the term psychedelics, because it means mind expanding, mind opening. And so and she said, well, look, I advocate other methods like meditation and mindfulness and all of that.
yeah,
And I just want to say, I agree that this, you see, look, whatever makes a person a better person, if to some people it's they can achieve it through mindfulness and just doing their general things. And I shared a hadith today which really sums up Islam, about this whole thing of love. It's really, that whole hadith could be summed up by love, that Allah, as long as you are set, you are taking a footstep in aiding someone in need, that God is aiding you, that as soon as that, the most beloved of actions is that just bringing some happiness to the hearts of another person, that repelling some agony from somebody that's suffering. At the heart, at the crux of that entire hadith is just this, it's just love. And so however a person can self-actualize, if a person can do it in other ways, then of course. And this isn't, I'm not trying to say to people, and I don't say to people that, look, everybody should be doing this. And because it is, it's like you said, look, you went to do it, and it took a great amount of courage and a great amount of strength, because it was terrifying. And I've heard sometimes, there's the odd cases I've you can get on YouTube in some, amongst some of the research, you'll get some of the researchers mention, especially if people have a history of mental health, like by mental health I mean psychosis, then sometimes it can be it can be dangerous for them, because if people have mental health like schizophrenia in the family, or they hear voices, and then you see, because for people like that, the very little sense, the kind of semblance of reality that they have, for that to dissolve, it becomes too difficult for it to come back together, and it's too terrifying. So it would be devastating for people like that to take it.
That's true.
And so these things are not for everyone, but at the same time, I do feel that it's a shame that the certain cultures, even the Western cultures, because of Nixon's war on terror, still continue to outlaw these kind of things that can really help people heal, and have led so many people back to God. In this day and age, I really feel that this path of consciousness is what is leading so many people back to God. In an age of hard line materialistic, or mechanistic materialism, it is this path of consciousness that is breaking the way through it for your common people out there, not Muslims, for the common people out there. And it is forcing a way back to God, because it's difficult not to believe after you taste and experience the presence of God, that you feel that it's difficult. But I'm really grateful, Yunus, that you came on and shared your experience. It's
of course,
sitting right there in the jungle. You took us right there with you. It's been quite a night. On that pleasant thought, I think we should wrap this up.
Thank you so much, Mufti.
So shukran, first of all, to you. People, that was Yunus, all the way from, was it from Amsterdam, I believe? But shukran, all the way from the mainland continent, from the jungle, right there, sharing his precious thoughts with us. People, it's been quite I can see quite an evening. Let's wrap this up for tonight. Very fruitful discussion. Do take these, one of the most the key words, really, the key phrases, that Yunus had said. And I remind people that, look, you are your own person. Okay. He said that, look, when he was interested, he researched something. And a person always, they have their own path in front of them that they have to walk in life, I guess. And if you're somebody that does hold to the opinion that these things are haram, I respect that opinion. I understand where you're coming from. You're coming from the angle that to kind of dissolve any sense of reality in front of you, to you may be akin to intoxication. And I respect that, although I respectfully disagree with it, but I respect that opinion. And I believe in that case, you should not do these things, and to you, it is haram. But equally, we need to respect a difference of opinion. And that is, honestly, it is the beautiful diversity of Islam, that it shows us these incredibly different and diverse colors. Ameen. And it's a journey, wallahi, and we're all on it, and we're all learning. I can't remember, I said to, who was I saying? We're all developing. I just speaking to someone recently, just yesterday, day before yesterday, I was talking about something. I was talking about myself, and I said, look, like, what world would it be if we didn't develop? I said, like, I look at myself even, and I think, I see some things of myself, and I think, what an idiot. Wallahi, we develop. This is the fruits of life, that we walk this path, we grow, we develop, we learn, and we kind of have patience with one another along the way. Everybody's fighting a difficult path. May Allah bless everyone. May He give us all happiness. Ameen. And may He, more importantly, allow us to be a source of happiness for others. There is something so profound about just being able to bring a glimpse of happiness in a moment of another. That you are, for albeit a moment, a piece of sunshine in somebody's world. May Allah enable us all to do that, and to truly understand this deen, as by the messenger, rahmatan lil alamin, that, it was a mercy, that Allah says, لو كنت فظا غليظ القلب لانفضوا من حولك. If you had this harshness to you, they would have fled from around you. You wouldn't see these people, but you weren't. You were rahmatan lil alamin. Sallallahu alayhi wasallam. People, I leave you with that. If you want to reach out to me, send me a message on Instagram. I do try to respond as quick as I do try on Instagram. If you want a more personal interaction, if you want to take up the one-to-one perspective sessions I have, then that's available on Patreon. There are different tiers. There is the one-to-one perspective session. There is there's other benefits on Patreon with different tiers, subscribe tiers. There is all the tiers have with different graded rewards and benefits. They have a Discord server my Discord server, Mindscape. So you're more than welcome to check that out. You can go to Patreon. It's just Patreon/MALM, MALM. May Allah bless you all, people. Remember me in a kind dua. Wassalamu alaikum wa khuda hafiz.